Today we'll be doing the next installment of the Gwent tier list series. We'll look at every single card in Gwent. Today we're on to Nilfgaard, and this is for 2025, probably 2026 is the end of 2025. And like I said, there's been like 500 changes to the game since the last time we did this, so I think we should update the tier list and get into this one here. We have the excellent tier, which are for extremely strong cards that either see wide play across the faction or are very important cards in good decks. These are generally extremely strong. Good cards are generally just good. They have their place, they work well, and they do their job effectively. They're just overall good. Okay cards, you can play these, but usually something in good's going to be a bit better. But like they have certain meta times they might be more valuable, or like they're a bit riskier, like a lower floor and not enough of ceiling to make up for it, but they can be used. Like these are like okay cards. You can use them, but the ones above are usually better. Niche cards, these are ones that have a very specific spot, and they do well in that specific spot. But that specific spot doesn't usually matter too much. Or it's like in a deck, like they make a deck that's bad, like work, but it's not great. They're like hard cards to rank. So if they have a very specific use, they don't know where else to put them. We'll kind of put them in here. This is a weird category, but I think we'll keep it for now. We have weak cards. These are ones you don't really want to be playing. They just don't give enough value, or maybe they need like a provision buff or something, like need like a buff to get played, but they're just not generally worth it. Bad cards are just really bad. There's not really a reason to use them ever until they get buffed, and you just don't give enough value, or their situations are way too weak or something like that. They're in their current state, they can't really be played effectively. Obviously, you can play anything you want, but like competitive, like trying to compete, you don't really want to be using these. And then meme cards. These are ones that are kind of hopeless. Like there's a place for meme cards that are funny, but these cards you aren't using unless you're trying to be funny. So these are just atrocious. Let's get into the tier list here. We're gonna go alphabetically, starting with the golds. We'll go in with Abduction, which is a good card. Yeah, Abduction is a good card. It's played in some different decks. Often those decks are going to play like Toxicologist or Sandor. You can also just play it in decks without Sandor, but usually you want to involve the Toxicologist. You can use it in conjunction with things like Henry, depending what you give the opponent. Overall, it's just good value because if you pull, for example, if you give them the token, you play a token out of their deck for 13. Obviously, there's also the False Siri play where you pull False Siri out of their deck after giving it to them with Sandor, and then it gets boosted, and then it plays Boo Hurt. So a lot of uses in some decks, and it's good in those decks. Admiral Rompoli is pretty good for status aristocrats. You don't see him chosen all the time in those decks, but he is one of the options you can use. I think I will put him in okay, though. He's extremely expensive. Like 13 is a lot of provisions to pay in a deck that already has to run a bunch of upper end cards. And I think the other options for statuses are better than Rompoli. For example, Kuwakim gives you point slam options. Other just removal things like Vincent I think would be better. But he is alright. Like he's not bad. You can use him, and he often get like that 3 points a turn on him. But you really need him to get his engine value to make up for the amount of provisions you're paying here. I just think the other stuff's slightly better. Afan, after being buffed, and then reverted, and then or buffed, and then reverted. Where's he gonna fall now? Afan, let's see here. I will put Afan in good at the moment. He sees play in soldier decks, and he also sometimes sees play in cultists, depending how you want to play cultists. I'm not really counting for cultists in this because that deck's not good. But generally he does see play in soldiers, and because you can get him off of the leader, he thins himself out, and then his order is usually worth quite a few points if you're playing Imperial Formation, so I think he's actually pretty solid now. Usually it gets included in the soldier decks. Albric kind of makes Hyperthin work. I will put Albric in good because it makes Hyperthin work. He's much better in the Renfree Hyperthin, but that's more saying something about Renfree than the other cards here. But he is pretty good. He does make Hyperthin work. Do I want to bump him up a tier? I think I will put him up a tier. Albric, he really just does make the Hyperthin decks work. I think I like him up here. And the Renfrey Rience one in particular is actually quite a good deck, so I think we'll give him this. Because he does make it work. Basically, each time you stack him top of your deck, those 2 points let you get engine value while you're stacking your finisher. And those extra points while stacking really help you keep up in the early game, which is the weakness of the Hyperthin. So he helps address that. Anna Henrietta is pretty solid. Pretty solid. I think I have the wrong picture here. Yeah, she's 4. Forgot to capture her. Anna Henrietta is a 4. I will edit that after. Sorry, guys. I try to keep up with the images. I took all these. I screenshot all these before. Then with each balance council, I try and keep up with all the images. And I probably just deleted the wrong Anna Henrietta. So I'm sorry about that. She's 4 base power. So that being out of the way. At 4 for 9, she gives you the opponent's leader. It's pretty solid in several different decks. Usually the non-Renfrey ones, but ones you want to shove your leader early. Although you can also use it with Renfrey to see that sometimes. I will put her in OK as an option. I think I do like this better. She is something you can do, but you really need that leader of your opponent to be one that you can use. For example, if you're playing against Syndicate and you don't have any fee cards, it doesn't do much. But sometimes it can be quite good. The leaders are probably right around like 9 value, just if you have no synergies on their own most of the time. That's giving you a 13 for 9. There's some variance there. I'll give her an OK. Usually there's something slightly better you can do, but she's a solid option. Art Fiend is very, very good. Art Fiend is your consistency card for the status deck, and it is the reason the status deck, despite being Devotion and not playing things like Yan, is so consistent and really can survive round 2 bleeds very effectively, because this will just keep giving out statuses to your opponent, which keeps them behind. It gives you synergies with your big engine cards, and it stacks the gold cards you want to play at the top of your deck to play off of things like Joachim. So, very good. Very good card. Ardle's alright. Ardle's one of those things like, for enslave assimilate decks or enslave tactic decks, if you want to go not the assimilate approach, you can use Ardle, and he's alright. The problem with Ardle is the variance. So basically what he does is when you play him, usually he's going to return like a big card, like 14, ideally near the upper range of what he can do, which is 14 is the max, I believe. But if he returns like a boosted card to your opponent's hand, they lose the boost and you draw a card. So you're basically giving yourself a draw, and the opponent you're giving a bad draw by giving them a card they've already played. That's like the theory. It's fine, but usually the other things in tactics tend to be a little bit better than him. But I do like him. I think he's fun, but I don't think he's the best thing you can do in tactics, but he's not that bad. Artud is incredible. He gives you a copy of something you've put spying on this game. And the fact that Tauros does this in the opponent's deck means you can just play Tauros, and Artud has a bunch of choices. You can play other things to get the opponent spying. Just the ability to make your opponents good cards with the Artud, it limits some factions completely. Like, Skellige just can't play Fukusha if you can like threaten putting spying on it in Artud. It's just too good most of the time. Stuff like that. So the fact that he can make stuff is incredibly good. He has Assimilate on himself that he procs, and he procs all your other Assimilate cards, and he has very high value. Not to mention giving things in your opponent's deck spying can set you up for coups later, and it's just very strong. Artorias Vigo is good. I'm going to put him in good. He lets you make copies of your bronzes. Typically, you want to set your decks, you're getting like Nausicaa Sergeants every time you do this, or Magni Divisions, depending on what you want to run. And he's good at doing that. He does have Assimilate, but he's not that high of power initially, so you can usually kill him. But usually you're setting your deck so that the 1 power copies that he creates of your bronzes are just pretty good value. So I think he's a good card. Asira recycles one of your cards, or one of the opponent's cards. Usually you want to do your own, but there are situations where putting an opponent's card back in their deck is really good. Yeah, you can do like Deny Echoes that way. You can do stuff like that, although usually that's not the best use. Usually what you're doing is putting Battle Stations back in your own deck, or you're putting Golden Necker back in your own deck. are the two main targets you do. Sometimes it's Roach, but at 9 for 7, Roach isn't the best play. She used to be higher power where it was better to do that. But yeah, usually you're recycling Golden Echo or you're recycling Battle Stations, which is very good use of her. She's good at both of those things. You don't have to play her in those decks, but she's a good option to go in them as well. I think I'll put her in the lower end of good for that. Ox, okay, we have to put these three together. Ox, Letho, Serret, the Witcher trio. They're the Witcher trio because they all work together. Obviously, Ox locks, Serret does damage, and both those abilities are enhanced if the other one is in your hand. And then if they're both in your hand, Letho can do the lock with 3 damage. If you only have one, he'll do either the damage or the lock. So they go together. The problem with them being together is you want all 3 at the same time, which can be a bit annoying. However, it's very easy to do in Renfree decks that are thin a lot, so I'll put them in okay. The trio is a fine set of cards to put in your deck. You just have to play a deck with enough consistency to enable them, like Renfree with a lot of thinning. If you do that, they are actually quite strong, right? Because a 6 with lock's good. Usually you won't play this one last. 7 that does 4 damage. That is pretty good value with decent removal. And this is just like an extra Nilfgaard faction stratagem. 3 damage and lock. It's really good. So really good, and not alright. But together they work out quite well. I just think that it's a little harder to make them work out than some other stuff, so I'll put them in okay. Valhalla is an excellent card. It gives you carryover. It spawns 2 engines. Admittedly, one of them is pretty mediocre, the ship. But the Imperial Marine's very nice. Gives you extra Marine. Lets you move your units, which can set up flankings. And also has boost. 2 points of boost on the movement, which is usually used for carryover. Or can protect your engines if the opponent's trying to kill them over 2 turns. Very good card. Very, very good card. Ball is also an excellent card. Put that by Ardfian. At 13 provisions, Ball's now a very cheap scenario. And it lets you essentially kill a unit because you get the 2 poisons. It also spawns one of the better engines in the game in the Thirsty Dame. And it works really well with aristocrats. Like, if you just go short round Ball, you're usually feeling pretty good because you know you'll be able to poison and kill something while also developing your own points. Battle Stations. Oh, Battle Stations. Let's put this at the front just for no particular reason. Battle Stations is absolutely incredible. It thins your deck by 2 while developing 2 engines simultaneously, usually. Or if you're going to play a different deck, you can point slam 2 bronzes simultaneously, like a Nautical Slave Driver or something like that. And that thins your deck by 2 at the same time, which is fantastic. And yeah, it's just a great card. Like, it doesn't seem that great on the surface if you're like not used to the game, but everyone who's played the game knows how good Battle Stations is. This card's very, very strong. Beauclair. How do I want to deal with Beauclair? Let's see here. I'll mention this again. We're not ranking these necessarily based on what deck they're in. For example, I'm not going to take every card in Status Aristocrat and put it in top tier because I think the Ball is a top tier card. Or for example, I'm not going to put every card in Renfree Rience in excellent tier because I think it's a really strong deck. We're going to try and break the cards up a bit. Otherwise, we're just ranking decks, and that's not great. I would rather look at the cards individually because decks get changed a lot by balance councils, where individual cards they won't get changed as much for the most part, I think. Anyway, I will think this is still an excellent card, though. It really is the core of your Night finisher, unless you're going to play a Rainfarn version, which it still works well with, because you boost your opponent's guy up a whole bunch, then this gives you all those points in one of your cards. So usually that's like a 20-point deploy if you set this up well. Then you reset the opponents, and the reset can carry over, which is very good from round 2 to 3, especially if you can secure a last say. Most finishers are boosted, so if you carry this from round 2 to 3, you can then reset their finisher while developing your own stuff, which is very good, because anyone would love to be able to answer the opponent's finisher while playing their own at the same time. It's kind of lets you do that, which is just really strong. And I think this one belongs up here. Brothans is okay. I think I'm putting him below Artorias Vigo. I think I'll put him down here. Brothans is fine. The thing with Brothans is he spawns a disloyal card from your deck, which isn't too big a deal because you usually can fit an Emissary and Duchess Informant in your deck pretty easily if you want to do this. The thing is that just generally the other options are a bit better. Either you're going to lean more into the Assimilate with things like Artud and Ku Wakim, just for point slam, or you're going to play more tactic reliant, maybe with Magni Divisions and Ivo. I just generally think the other options are better, but he's an alright choice if you want to lean more into the opponent copying stuff with double cross. Just that's not typically as good as the other options for assimilating. Bribery is also okay. I'm going to put Bribery. Bribery is a weird one. It's just completely RNG dependent on what you see. I'm going to put it down here, though. I think it is not quite as good as the rest of the stuff in this tier. Bribery you can use, but it's just so RNG reliant that you either are incredibly happy when you play it or incredibly sad, and you're paying 8 for that. Now, one other thing to consider is you see 3 random cards from the opponent's deck. I don't believe you can see the same card twice, so like if they're playing duplicates, like they're playing 2 Nausicaa Sergeants, you can't see Nausicaa Sergeant twice, I don't think. You guys let me know if I'm wrong about that, but I haven't used this card in a while. I don't believe that's how it works, though. So you're usually getting a decent chance of getting a gold, and it's just a question of, is that going to synergize with your deck? Probably not. So I think it's generally not really worth including. But if you want to play more RNG high roll-y, maybe you're playing like full assimilate with Rune Mage, where you see 5 choices, then you can maybe play it. Maybe it'll be alright. Catavine's a meme card. Really just used for the Viper deck, which is not really playable. It poisons the opponent's unit and then spawns a copy of it on your side of the board. That's a base copy. That's, I mean, you usually just want to poison the opponent's unit and pay 4 provisions to do that with something like Agent Guy or even the King Cobra. So, yeah, this card's just kind of a meme. If it was really, really cheap, it might fall into bad. If this was like 4 provisions or 5, would I play it? Yeah, maybe it was like 4 or 5. Okay, we'll give it the bad treatment. I don't think it's quite meme then. I think we'll put it there. Okay, here's a good card. Here is a good card. I don't think I'm putting him in the same tier as Beauclair. He is a good card in Knights. The thing with Kahir is he's row-locked, which isn't too big a deal, but he goes extremely tall. Now, so does the Beauclair boost, but you also has the reset, and it also boosts your lowest guy. Kahir's just going to go really tall or get locked, and then they're going to answer him. So I think he's a good card. He pays off for boosting the opponent's cards. I think there's better payoffs than him, though, but he's still pretty good. Contarella. Contarella, really only good if you're playing a mill deck. Well, no, actually, you can play her outside of mill too. In Construct. Construct likes to play her because you spawn whatever there's the Construct token, the Golem token, whatever it's called on top of the opponent's deck, and you play it with this to enable your Constructs again. So you can play it in Construct as well. Actually, I believe I think the last video we did with Constructs, we play it, and I still think I do in that deck. Yeah, we still play that. So it has uses. You can also combo it with, what's this location? The Witcher location for Nilfgaard. You can combo it with that too. I think it's alright. I don't think it falls too low here. You can do stuff with it, and some of those options you can do with it are pretty solid. But I just think that generally, there's probably something better you can do, but it does have a spot in some decks. Here we go. Purify all allies on this row. No. Like Purify is a fine. Purify is a good key. Is a keyword. I think is a good keyword to use. But you don't want to pay 6 for your Purify. You want your Purify card to be a 4 provision card most of the time, unless it's 6 with an upside, like an alternative effect, like in Vampires you'll use Queen of the Night or something, or Kurt gives bounty, stuff like that. Purifying all allies on a row. It's fine. Usually you only need to purify 1 card, though. The only time this really helps is like against a Salamander deck that's playing Salamander not in 1 turn. Like they're playing it, not Golden Necker, for example. They would just hit you with the double deploy to decoy. But if they're doing something else like that, where they want to poison a bunch of your guys and play Salamander, this can work. For the most part, though, you just need a single target poison, which means he's a bit of overkill and doesn't have other synergies like a card we'll get to pretty soon does. So, unfortunately, he's a bit weak. Coup is excellent, though. We'll just stick it over here by Artud. Coup lets you just copy the opponent's stuff you give spying to, or Deathblow and copy it. Often you'll be just copying the good cards your opponent plays, because you'll put a spying on it, and then you'll get it, or you'll just Torres things in their deck that you know they want to play later, and just save coup to hit them with. Because if they try to avoid the coup and not play the cards, then they're not playing their gold cards that you put the spying on, and you're winning anyway. You can also sometimes use it to kill a bronze engine, like Imperial Marine in a mirror match, right? You can kill that with a coup, then you get your own, which is pretty good. And it has Echo, which is fantastic. So that even synergizes more with the Simulate, because the second copy didn't start in your deck and it triggers it. And then thing you play triggers it. Obviously has the fantastic combo with Joachim for a bunch of point slam. But you don't need that. Coup's too good anyway. Just very strong. The Mortal Helm Cupbearer is okay. He's got the Poison or Purify. Because he has the Poison or Purify, you pretty much only see him in the Poison decks, status decks, because 5 for 6 isn't great. He does have the Assimilate tag, though, so keyword, I should say, so you do get a couple extra points sometimes out of him, but he fits best with statuses for that Poison, and then sometimes you have to Purify. Usually you save him, say, do I have to Purify my Philippe, or do I want to Poison an extra time with him? That's usually how this goes, and generally that's pretty fine. Like, you could use something else instead of him, but he does his job pretty well. I just think that the best version of stats decks probably just don't use him, but he's an option. I can see moving up to here. He was a fairly recent buff, so I haven't played with him too much, but I think he still falls in the okay tier. Cynthia. All right, how do we think about Cynthia? She's very good for clog decks or stacking the opponent with a token they don't want to play, which can work with the Abduction. If you're going to play a construct deck, you can do that. Abduction or Cynthia. Or Cantarella. She can give you ways to do it. She's really good in Clog, though. Clog really likes her. 7-point tempo that clogs the opponent with a card they really don't want is nice. And it does have some play in other decks. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave her here, actually. Clog's a fairly popular deck, and it's pretty decent. And just enabling abductions is pretty good with a construct as well. I like constructs. I don't think it's as good, but it's a fun deck. I can see people putting her down here. I'm biased towards her, but 7 for 7 with a clog on the opponent's deck is pretty decent, actually. Damien is weak. Damien's problem is kind of that you have to defender him or he's too easy to answer. He's 11 provisions. He resets your leader, which in some situations can be good, but often it's actually not. Like, Tactical Decision doesn't want to do this because they want to combo with Snowdrop and Mage Assassins, and they don't really need the leader again after that. It's good with Enslave, it's good with Double Cross. The main ones you would use it with, usually Double Cross, I've seen it, but it's not amazing. You can do really funny stuff with it. If you like get an extra copy, and then you and your opponent both keep enslaving it over and over, and then resetting, it's kind of funny. And cooing and stuff, you can do weird things, but for the most part, I think he's a bit too weak. Yeah, he just getting another leader is good, just it's not going to happen the most of the time. And the biggest problem for him is getting him blocked is such a tempo loss that yeah, getting him locked is really the big problem. But yeah, I think he's a bit weak. This here. Of the runestones, Nilfgaard's probably the best, because it more consistently can give you locks and 5 damage, which means you can sometimes use it specifically off of Rune Mage. If you're trying to kill something with your Rune Mage play, you go into Nilfgaard and you look for like the 2 lock cards we'll get to later, or like the 2 damage cards that do 5 damage or more. So yeah, you usually pick this one. I still think it's not very good. You're not gonna put it in your normal deck for sure, but maybe if it's 4, maybe. Dead Man's Tongue is pretty decent. Banishes the 2 bronzes from your deck and boosts a unit by that amount, or 1 gold. Usually do 2 bronzes to thin. Is a way to thin your deck that you can do in like a hyper thin. I want to put it in okay, though. I think the other thinning options are a bit better, but you can certainly use it. Cards in okay aren't bad cards. They're just usually, I think, a slightly suboptimal choice, but it's not bad. Like, you can use it to thin your deck too. Pretty nice. Nice to see Dowadric up here in good finally. Bit subjective because I can just put anything I want in good, but I do think he belongs here. So Dowadric lets you cycle your hand every turn. It's pretty easy to have an agent out on board because of Mage Assassin, stuff like that. Blight Makers, you can get an agent on board, then he has Zeal and he does his order, and then you're getting an extra, basically a cycle of your hand each turn, because he puts it on the bottom as well, which means you're not getting the same card over and over. He enables Snowdrop very effectively, and in a perfect world for Hyper Thin, you are drawing and putting Albric back on top of your deck every turn round 3, making him very big and engineing, which is really nice. I do think he is pretty good, and in some decks like that just want to find specific cards too, you can just run him. It's pretty good. Amir is very good. Where's putting up here? Amir is very strong. Either if you're going to play a Status Aristocrat deck, because he lets you play 2 engines at once while giving, because he's in a spy stuff, which sets up coup, which sets up the other cards that synergize with spying, like the Aristocrats, the bronze ones. Or if you use him with soldiers in a, usually it's going to be a Enforcers deck, because the spying synergizes well with them. But yeah, he's just really good. We'll go with really good. The Cultist scenario, the Eternal Eclipse. I think this is a good candidate for the niche tier. Now, Cultist decks have, I believe, see, I did the math on this before. Okay, outside of Infinite Dagon loops, and I believe Ships Ballista Erland Uninterrupted can also get higher carryover. I believe this is, other than those, I think it's the highest points you can get in the game of Gwent without making your opponent help you if they don't answer it. Right? Because if you play a bunch of cultists and bronzes, they don't answer anything, you get literally thousands of points. That being said, if they remove your scenario before you activate Chapter 1, you just leave the game and try again. So, we're going to put Eclipse here because it really is a meta call. In metas with high devotion counts, for example, when, say, like, in the Balance Council, say a devotion deck gets its bronzes over buff because people feel like trolling. Then you know everyone's playing devotion. You can make the call that against high devotion counts, the scenario for cultists is extremely good. It also can lose just a heavy control. Like Hyper Control can deal with all your bronze engines too, so you can still lose there. But for the most part, if you get the scenario off and they don't have a lot of control, you will win. So I'm going to put it in niche. It's a meta call, kind of like V. It's similar to V, but like more punishing if the opponent can't answer it. Where in certain metas, this deck just dominates, which is why it's been nerfed so much, and it's just bad most of the time. But in certain metas with high devotion counts, it can actually work out pretty well. False Series, excellent. You just get so much value off of her. What you usually do with her is you play her and have her play a Boohurt, and then if she does that, you get 9 points, and she'll eventually come back to you with her 8 points after a few turns, and that just effectively meant you got 17 points for this. The other option is you play this to the opponent's board. When it goes up to like 7, you hit it with Sangreal, and then comes back to you at 19. You got a 20 out of your Sangreal and your Siri, plus the 9 from the Boohurt. That's 29. So, yeah, she has some incredibly high value combos. Great in mid-range type decks. The problem with those is that typically the Renfree is the better mid-range option than playing her with the specials to enable her, but she is still very good. Works incredibly well with Sandor, and just has a lot of great synergies. Works great with Abduction because of that as well. She gets boosted, plays the Boohurt. And just a very good card. The opponent has to respect her. Works great in Knights. Yeah. A lot of great things to say about False Theory. Faircart's alright. He cycles your deck by playing a special out of your hand, and then each time you play a special, you get to put spying on the enemies. It is a random spying, which means it's usually not that helpful. Like, it can be nice just to enable engines. Like if you're playing a status deck and you want to play more specials, maybe you can cycle Faircart. Typically, you're not going to, though. It's more of an issue that the decks that he would work with, like the spying synergies, already have consistency from Artfian, and the decks that don't really want, or that would rather have the thinning, will play like Tactical Decision Snowdrop and stuff instead of using him to cycle a card, and they don't care that much about the spying. So that's kind of where he's at. I think he's all right, though. You can certainly use him. Typically, with these two go pretty well together. But yeah, I think he's an all right card. Fergus is good. It's a good status aristocrat card. That deck does play Devotion, so you put out 3 Spyings. Putting out 3 Spyings on a 7 for 6 is pretty good, because typically those 3 Spyings will give you 3 points on at least one engine, either the Seditious Aristocrats or the Thirsty Dame. And if not, it sets up things for coup if you're running coup in your deck. And it is a 7-point slam, which sometimes the Stats Aristocrat deck just doesn't have a point slammy type card. This can kind of fill a middle point amount, not that you want to do that. But the 3 Spyings is really where it's at, because it sets up a lot of points on engines. Fifione we'll put up here and good as well. I think Fifione is probably the most... I think it's probably the most used defender. Either him or Cave Troll, but I think Nilfgaard's more popular, so we'll give it to Fifione. He has several decks where you want to use him, mainly with Colgrim. Either Clog with Colgrim or you Hyperthin with Colgrim, although typically you're trying to do both, to be honest. But you put him out there, your Colgrim then just like 15 points a turn, the opponent can't answer it, then you copy it with Letho Kingslayer. Works great there. You can play it in other decks like Rot Tosser, although you don't see that one very often. You can put it in front of your Damien. You can put it in front of any of the decks where you just want to spawn a bunch of things, like with Amir. You can do it that way. Yeah, he just has some good uses. The fact that he spawns a battle preparation is nice for decks that want the assimilate trigger, but also want to protect something in particular. But I think he's really good in certain decks. But obviously, if you don't want a defender in your deck, you don't need him. So I think he is good, though, for what he does. Frangelia's going to go in weak. She has been buffed, but the ceiling on her ability is a bit too low. Right, like she wants mages or constructs next to her. And it's just not enough value for her, unfortunately. It's 2 damage plus 2 for each adjacent one. You can get a decent ceiling, but you'd just rather do something else for the most part. So yeah, I think she's still weak. Glynis is a weird one. I think she's going to go down here in weak as well. True Assimilate has really been eclipsed by like Tactics and Enslave. But if you're playing pure Assimilate, 2 points per Assimilate is pretty good. It's just she costs 6. I think if she costed 5, she'd be very, very strong. But as it is, you would rather have your Assimilate card be something like Mage Torturer, which gives out a Spying and has Veil to synergize as well with things like Coup, to enable stuff like that. I think Glynis just doesn't really have a spot in a deck she wants, and probably just needs a buff. Although buffing her provisions is quite scary. Maybe it'd have to be power. We'll see. Gorther, this is what we're talking about, the Nilfgaard location, is a good card. It has some very nice uses. You can typically play this in a Clog deck to spawn extra Viper Witcher. You can play this in a non-Clog deck to get a Viper Witcher Mentor near the end of a round for a bunch of points. And then you can combo the order with it to either Clog the opponents or put a good card on top of the opponent's deck and play it with Cantarella. Those are the main uses for this. I think overall it's pretty good at what it does. And yeah, I think it's overall pretty solid. Next up, we have Guillaume. Probably pronounce these names right. Let's see. I put him alongside Kahir. He's a very good knight, but I don't think he quite makes it into the top tier. He combines his power with another enemy unit's power, like gives each half or something. You know, if you read it, I'm not going to put all the images up on these guys. I know last year I think I did put the image for every card up, but I think it would just take, well, I started doing it and it took way too long. And yeah, I think at this point, anyone watching these kind of knows what all the cards do and just kind of curious about my opinion. So we're going to go without the text for all the cards up this season or this year. Now, as far as talking back about our good old card here, which we dropped in the tier list somewhere, Guillaume. So the part where he steals the opponent's statuses really doesn't matter for the most part. Sometimes the opponent will avoid playing a resilience card in certain matchups because of it. But really he's here to give your opponent more points while taking advantage of that for yourself, like doubling up on boosting the opponent, which is the whole knight thing, which he is good at, but he's not the best. I think the really best cards in knights might go up here, but I think he's like, okay, here they're very good at what they do, but they don't like make the deck or anything most of the time. Hefty Helga's okay. This is what I was trying to think of when I was talking about Fifione. You also put Hefty Helga behind Fifione in some tactic decks. And I think Hefty Helga's fine. It Hefty Helga's is funny because she really gets shut down by the mirror match more than anything else. The fact that she has shield and 4 health means Tourney Joust kills her at a 4, and Nilfgaard is the faction with the bronze locks, and getting her locked is really bad. So she really suffers in mirror matches, which is a bit unfortunate because Nilfgaard's the most popular faction. But she's an option you can do in tactic decks. 2 damage plus 2 for each additional tactic you play. Often that'll be a good amount of damage, but you really do want to protect her with Fifione, which is why I think she's not quite in the good tier. I think she's an option you can run in tactic decks. I just think the other things are generally a bit better. But if you want to play something with a bunch of machines going boom, 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 boom on the opponent's cards with her and Fire Scorpions, it's pretty fun. But you do need to protect her. But Henry up here. Henry is extremely powerful because it's like a discount temple kind of. But he gives you a bunch of card options to look at. Usually you're playing with Rune Mage. So you look at 5 cards, you pick one to go from the opponent's faction, you pick one in your hand, you pick the best one to go in your hand, and the other one's go bottom of your deck. The opponent, you give some garbage Nilfgaard gold they can't synergize with to their hand, something like False Siri if they don't have, not False Siri, something like a Fawn, they just put that in their hand, stuff like that they can't really take advantage of. And then you just play the stuff out of their deck with Abduction or stuff like that, and you then play Jan to stack all the golds you made to top of your deck and play them all. Very good for what he does. He gives you a lot of extra value in the decks he's in, often combined with Shoop. And yeah, he's just a really strong card. The options you get with playing him usually make him worth it. Golem we're actually putting good. Golem has 2 big uses. One is to come off of the Summoning Circle and decks using him for carryover, because you can play Summoning Circle, pick him, and then if you pass with Summoning Circle still having ticks, it has resilience. So at the start of the next round, you pull out a 13-point card. Really good. The other option is you play him in Constructs, because he just is a construct that is pretty decent value and engines up your other constructs, basically. You can also just play him in Hyper Thin if you don't want to go with the Albric approach. That's not as good, so I wouldn't really consider that. But you really want to combine him with either the Summoning Circle or with a Construct deck, and he is good at both of those things. Isabel's a meme card. I don't think Isabel will ever be good. There was a bug with Isabel a while back, like years ago at this point, that made her extremely good because your opponent just didn't get a card. You just clicked her order and you saw 2 cards, you kept one, and the opponent didn't get one. So that was a bug for a while. But that's gone. That's been gone for a long time. But yeah, I just think she's a meme card. You never know what you're going to see off the top of the cards when you look at the top card of the opponent's deck, the top card of your deck. You see them both, you draw one. Obviously, you can draw the better one, but you might see 2 good cards, you might see 2 bad cards. She's row locked, and she is a low power, and she is an order. There's everything else you're going to do is probably better than Isabel, unfortunately, even if she gets buffed. Ivar Evil Eye has lost its place as a knight card and just become a pure mid-range. Well, it's still good in knights. It's just become better at mid-range. Ivar's gone from 4 for 10 to 1 for 11 over a bunch of balance councils. That's a huge amount of changes. I think that's the most changes on one card that were not reversions. So now if your opponent has a 7 power card, which is very common, he's going to just swap with it, and it's going to be a 13-point play for 11. Now that's like a floor, like 6 or 7 is like the floor of what he's going to hit. Most of the time he's going to hit like a 10 power card or higher, and that swing is gigantic. This is why he's just shoved into everything mid-range at the moment. He's likely getting nerfed at the end of this season, but we'll just take him as he is right now because I'm not sure about that. Maybe people like him as mid-range. Maybe he's not as good as I think, but I do think he's incredible. And he is the best payoff to your knights. He's even better than Beauclair in some senses because he just takes the opponent's boost. Yes, he has Adrenalin, so he can tall punish the thing that you took the points from, but they also lost the points. And he's really good as just a mid-range card in other decks as well. Now he's 1 base power, so I think he's fantastic. Speaking about fantastic, let's put the best consistency card in the entire game up here, Jan. Jan stacks your deck from highest version to lowest. That means you don't need to play any other consistency cards in your entire deck because you will see every gold card in your deck every game if you open him. If you play 12 tactics in your deck, which is commonly done with him, you will see him every game round 1, unless you go second and he's on bottom of your deck. I believe then you don't get him round 1 hand, I think. But yeah, for the most part, you just always get your yawn round 1. You always stack your deck, and you can use all those provisions you would otherwise use on consistency cards like Oneiromancy, Royal Decree, like Blightmaker, Mage Assassins. You just take all those provisions and put them into power golds, and you just play more provisions worth of good stuff on your opponent instead of playing consistency cards. That's why Yon's so good. Yon's also really great because he enables things like Imperial Marine to always know what they're going to pick. He works fantastically with Henry, and he's just incredibly good overall as a card. Other decks like Shoop love this guy. You don't even have to play 12 tactics. You can play like 8. It's typically fine, as you'll just get him in round 2 instead of round 3 some games, but he's the best consistency card in the game and definitely warrants his spot up here. And he also plays for 7, which is like decent tempo. Joachim is a good card. I'm going to go with good on Joachim. Joachim's good. You really want to set him up for him to play things off the top of your deck, typically with Ard Fian, but he's a good point slam option you can do. He's always comboed with Ku. I think the Ku is the better of the 2 cards. Not always, but actually, you know what? He probably has always played with Ku. But yeah, he plays atop this little thing from your deck, boost it by 8. So he's usually playing for 8 plus the thing you play off top of your deck. It's usually pretty good. You can set up the Protected Engine card. It cycles your deck, or thins your deck by playing the top card. And that's just good value, good tempo. Often you play him with Ku as a tempo play in decks that don't have it because it works out pretty well. I just think he's a good card. Colgrim. Put Colgrim next to his buddy Afifion. Colgrim like defines Colgrim decks. You like clog the opponent and thin yourself, so if there's a big card difference in the opponent's deck, and then each turn this guy goes off, he gets like 20 points. That's like a high number, like 10 to 15 is probably more normal. It's like 10 to 15 a turn. But he's very vulnerable to Tall Punish, very vulnerable to Lock, which is why you always play him with Afifion to give him the defender. I think he's good. I don't think his decks are quite in the same tier as the ones up here, though. I think it's like an okay deck. I think Clog's okay. I don't think it's that bad. It's not like as bad as this, but I think good is a good spot for him. So he does make his decks work, but it's not the most amazing thing. Leo. Ooh, this is going to be a controversial one. Leo Bonhart. Where do we put him? Stuck between good and excellent. It's just better Geralt. It is literally just better Geralt because it has the Witcher tag. So you can remove the main thing of the killing a Witcher is you can kill Ciri Nova with the ranged effect. I want to put him. I want to put him in excellent at the moment. I'm going to put him in good. I think Ivar's taken over his spot for this current season. I do think he's a fantastic card, though. I'm just going to put him in good. Yeah, we'll put him in good. I think I like this. We're rating them as they are right now. And right now, Ivar's better. If Ivar goes to like 12 or something, then I think Leo takes his spot here as like a default card here that goes in a lot of decks. But right now, it seems to be Ivar. Yeah, Leo is very good. Letho Kingslayer. Has a couple of uses. The main one's on Colgrim. Sometimes you also use him to copy Madoc. Well, whenever you're playing Madoc and Nilfgaard, you also use him there. I'm going to give him good as well. I think the ability to copy both Madoc and Colgrim are pretty effective uses for him. Used to sometimes copy Phoenix too, but that's not that common anymore. And it's generally a pretty good card. If you're playing Renew, you can renew him over this, although I've done the opposite before. But yeah, generally, he is a pretty good card. He really helps enable the Colgrim deck, because Colgrim into Letho is better than just Colgrim, and Colgrim on Madoc is quite good as well. So I think he does deserve this spot. Lydia's a good card too. Anything else with a Simulate up here? Yeah, we'll put her there. So Lydia's pretty good. You can either play one of the opponent's specials, or you like create one and play it, depending on what you want to do. Typically, that's good value, right? You're paying you're getting 4 extra points to play whatever your opponent's bronze is, or what you create. And usually trying to use this to activate Assimilates, which is pretty good. I think she's a good card overall, and fits pretty well into those decks in the 8 provision range. Alright, I had to take a quick break there and remove a card. I had Masquerade Ball on here twice, probably because I put it in when I updated the images as Ball, so it's alphabetically very different from Masquerade Ball. But let's go on to Master of Ceremonies here. It's going with... it's just going here. Where's Prophet? Prophet we'll toss in there too. Prophet gets a little more discussion than Master of Ceremonies. We'll get to Prophet when we get there, actually. We'll just toss Master of Ceremonies in here. He just helps you enable your scenario because it lets you put the cultist on other golds in your deck, so you actually have enough golds to trigger it. It's same statement. It goes for this scenario as goes for Master of Ceremonies. Meta deck, meta call. Sometimes it's good. Devotion's good. Most times really bad. Because you just get your scenario heat waved and then you leave. Menno is a pretty solid card. I'll put Menno in good. He's most commonly used to play battle stations, especially in decks that run Asira, because then you want the extra consistency to find your battle stations after you shuffle it back in. And he's good at that. Finding tactics is good. Just generally good card. Mostly combo with battle stations, but still that's a good effect to be able to tutor out your tactics. Sometimes you use them on World Decree in certain decks as well. Next up, we have Milton. Milton's a good card. Put him by Guillaume. Yeah, he's a good card. Typically, you want to combo him with False Siri, Sangreal, like a 3-card combo there, like Yo False Siri, play Buhurt, play Milton, and then you play the False Siri, or the Sangreal on the False Siri. You click Milton for the plus 12 buff, and then the False Siri comes back to you. It's pretty good. It's a little bit fallen out of favor as a mid-range package, thanks to a couple of nerfs and thanks to Renfree kind of dominating mid-range. But it's still not bad. And he's a good card for sure in Knights, which is probably his best spot. Marin, same deal. Good in Knights. Lets you look through the top cards of your deck. Well, if you've got Milton out the top 3, otherwise look at the top 1. You boost the opponent by it and play it. The opponent that you're boosting, it has to be an unboosted card. Typically, you want to do him fairly early. And then give it a big boost, which you then take advantage of later. So it works pretty well in Knights. Peter's okay. You see him a bit as a reset card in certain Renfree decks, or usually just in Renfree decks as a reset option, because they want a tall punish but don't want to afford running Leo or Geralt, and usually they'll play him. I think adding the Leo or Geralt is generally better than him, so I'm going to give him an okay. He's an option you can run. I think the other stuff's better, though. Philippe. If you don't kill Philippe, you lose the round, is typically how it goes. Because what he'll do is put out a poison every turn, and he can also lock stuff every turn, and he's just kind of a nightmare to deal with. If you're playing against Status Aristocrat, sometimes it's just better to Heatwave Philippe than the scenario, which is funny. Depends on what's in your hand, obviously. You'd prefer to use a bronze removal or a lock on Philippe, but sometimes you feel like you just have to remove him, like hard remove him. But yeah, he's incredibly dangerous, so I think he definitely warrants this. I'm more scared of this card when I'm going up against the Status Aristocrats than I am this scenario, because I can bleed this out and know when to use it. This, though, if you get this in the long round and you can't kill it, you feel really bad. Prophet, like we said we talked about Prophet, we got to him. Prophet has a bit more use than just the Aristocrat, the Cultist deck, because sometimes locking your opponent's hand just bricks it. Because they have a finisher like Gord that boosts himself. They have stuff like Maggie Divisions that has to cycle. So sometimes this is put in Renfree just as an option to mess the opponent up. I don't think that's really worth pushing him a tier higher than Niche where the other Cultist stuff is. But I will say that I just think that it does have some additional uses. I don't think it's moving on this tier though. But it's an interesting one. Locking the opponent's hand is something, all right. And it can be quite annoying to deal with. If they only have one unit, that unit's getting locked and won't get an ability. So the Adrenaline does keep it from doing that consistently on their finisher, but it can be a pain to deal with sometimes. But usually it's just played with the Cultist. It has some other uses, but I don't think it's worth moving up. Rainfarn's pretty good too. Rainfarn is a big finisher you can play in the Knight decks. where you boost the opponent's stuff a whole bunch, and then you take that boost onto yourself. Now, Rainfarn goes very, very tall. Like, usually Rainfarn's going to be like a 30 or so boost on one of your guys. Knights does go just very tall in general, though. He is pretty good. The problem with Rainfarn, not the problem, often you want to coup him, because you want that effect twice, and it's not bad. Like, playing Rainfarn is good. I just think the main punishes to opponent going tall are going to be Ivar and Beauclair, and then like Vilgefortz. I think that Rainfarn is a very good card. I think he can go in good though. Ramon is also a very good card. How good is Ramon? I want to put him up here. I'm going to think about it for a minute. I think he goes up here. Ramon's very good. Lets you make extra copies of an Illusionist. Lets you make extra copies of Imperial Marines. Crossbowmen, Elbow Armored Cavalry for locks. Very good. Very flexible. Nausicaa Sergeants just gives you 14 points for 10. Like, you can do a lot of stuff with him. And what he does is generally very good. Because if he makes an extra engine, he's armoring it, so it's hard to remove. And otherwise, you're getting a tech option like a lock or a point slam thing. So I think Ramon goes up here. He fits in a lot of different decks. Soldiers play him. Renfrey plays him. A lot of very good uses. Rico. Ah, perfect. He's next to Rience. Rience is an excellent card. We're going to talk about these two together. I'm just talking about Rience first because Rico just cares about Rience. So Rience, you thin your deck down to one card, which is Rico. You play Rience after the opponent plays a unit. The Rico is the same power as the opponent's unit, so you always match it and you kill it. And then you can use its order the next turn to set something's power to 0, which kills it again. So he's a double removal if you get the deck set up for him, which is why he's so strong. It's very, very strong card. It works great in Renfrey mid-range decks as a finisher. You can play hyper thin decks with him. Usually I'm seeing him in Renfrey though, and he's incredibly powerful. Now you just have to play Rico with him. Does that make Rico good? I don't know, but he does work well in that combo. I'm going to put Rico at least a tier lower, though. You only play Rico because Rience is so strong. So, yeah, I think I'm going to put... Hey, you don't actually play Rico. You just send him out of your deck. You put him in your deck, you never try and play him. I do think I'm going to put him in good, though, just because of how good he is with Rience. But if you want to, you can like put him down here if you're actually trying to play him out of your hand. But maybe he deserves to be a niche because he's only there because of Rience. But Rience Renfrey is a good deck, so I think I'll put this up here. Roderick's a good card too. Roderick is a good card too. Gives you consistency because you can look at 2 gold cards and play one. It plays himself disloyal. It can enable some engines. You can coup it to thin your deck more, which is pretty good. The unit, so you can use it in Renfrey thinning, although usually you don't do that. I'm going to put him in good. I think he's a good consistency card. Let's just put it this way. If Jan didn't exist, he would probably be in top tier. But Jan is so much above the other consistency cards, I think Roderick doesn't quite cut it. He's good. Like, he does cut it in some decks, right? In like non-tactic decks like Masquerade Ball, fantastic, because you're going to play him there. I think I like good. Yeah, I like good. I don't know. Let's put them up here. Why not? Rosa and Edna. Rosa we'll go with. They're okay. Where's Rompoli? They were a lot more popular for a while, but then they've been nerfed a couple times, and now they're easier to remove, and they are a bit more costly just to go into the play. Because if they get removed, it's pretty bad, right? Because you're giving your opponent a card, and then you're hoping that they can live to use their order to kill something, usually trying to kill a Joachim, but usually the other options are just better than playing her at the moment, unfortunately. But a fun one, you can get some really high variance and interesting situations with her, but usually she gets removed, and if she doesn't get removed, the value isn't always even there necessarily, because you usually give the opponent, just say you give the opponent like a 4 or 5, let's say 5 power blank thing, because if it's 4, it probably is like a 1 power order, 1 damage order or something. So give him a 5 power thing, she's 1 plus the extra use on Joachim. That's not as good as coup, and it's harder to do. And in other situations, I don't think she's generally worth it. If you're playing a bunch of aristocrats, you can do a decent amount of damage, but I think that she's only okay. Sandor is good because of his synergies and setting up a bunch of stuff. He works really well with False Ciri, works really well with Construct decks as well. Sandor Construct was a thing for a while, it still is. He works well with Abduction. It works incredibly well with Abduction. Actually, let's just put him next to Abduction. He has been nerfed, but I think he still falls in the good category. He's a good card. Yeah, I like that. Shillard. Shillard's weak. Shillard can be a meta call because if, for example, just say Tatterwing's the best deck, Shillard's pretty good against Tatterwing. This is an example. But for the most part, for Shillard to get value, you need him, say he's 9. You want to be hitting like a 9 power unit. Down to 1, right? Because that's what, 13 value? You want even more than that because you want him to be doing something like that each time. Yeah, you usually want, I would say you'd want Shillard to hit like a 10 plus power unit most of the time for him to be worth it. That is not great because you could just play a removal card or remove the card once they play it instead. Sure, you can like trap the opponent to playing a weak thing round 1, but Shillard just does not cut it in the current state of the game, unfortunately. The value is usually just not there. And you are paying 9 for it. Vilgefortz is also 9, and he kills something. So I don't think this is going to be not it. Slave Driver is only here because it got out of order. So let's just move that down to the bronzes and keep going with golds. We're going to do all the golds first. Oh, I see what happened here. Okay. I probably wrote it in wrong. All right, anyway. Back up to the Stefan here. Stefan's good. Stefan is good, and the fact that the aces up the sleeve proc assimilate 4 times moves him up to here, I think. I think Stefan is excellent. Yeah, he's good as a card, but in the excellent tier. He plays for, on paper, 13 with 8 damage. 8 damage is a good threshold, and it's spread across 4 targets, so you can spread it out. Very good at removing something. And then each time you play the ace up the sleeve, it procs or assimilates. That just makes him the best assimilate engine procer there is. If you have 2 assimilate engines out, each ace plays for 4, and then you're talking about a 21-point play off of the Stefan, which is a very big deal with removal. So I think he's excellent. The reason you want to play Enslave 6 is for 1, for the leader, and for 2, for Stefan, which is why sometimes you see Enslave or Stefan without the Enslave leader and still playing Stefan. Swears is weird. It's like Toad Prince with a lower threshold, and that lower threshold really matters because when we said to talk about Toad Prince in the Monsters one, I said the thresholds for things at 4 power have been buffed to 5 a lot, which makes him not as good. The threshold of 3 power has really been buffed to 4 in a lot of cases. So usually you need to damage whatever you're trying to seize with him first. In that case, you could just damage it again and kill it. He really just needs synergies most of the time. You can't just play him out of hand to get value for the most part. But if you do play him and seize like a Madoc is probably the best example, you're feeling really good. The thing is that situation is so uncommon that I think we're just going to put him in weak still. I don't really think there's a reason to play him. All right, I fixed the tier list there. We removed a couple of cards. And where were we? We were on Catriona. Anyway, Catriona. I don't have enough time to rant about Catriona here, but why do I want to poison non-poisoned units that have a status? The status I would want to put on them is poison. So it just doesn't work. The flanking, it's fine. Like, sure, you can get 2 charges a turn if you're flanking, but how are you poisoning 2 things a turn when she can't put the second poison on something? So the flanking doesn't really matter because you're never getting that value. And she has to be protected by like Fifione. She can't kill stuff with the poison. It's just terrible. There's no hope for this, I don't think. Tibor is played in the Vilgefortz Renegade Tibor deck. And that is all. In that deck, he is the key card with Vilgefortz Renegade. That deck's not very good, though. If it loses round 1, it loses the game usually. But, I want to say Tibor. I want to say he's here. Yeah, I'm putting him there. He's got a use. The deck's not very good, but I can't use it without him. Yeah, I'm gonna put Tibor here. The fact he draws your opponent a card means you're never playing him outside of spamming him, or them getting more cards does not matter. Torres is incredibly powerful, though. Throwing him way up here in the top tier. You play him in Form 1 most of the time. Look at the opponent's decks, choose things to put spying on. You can either choose 3 bronzes, in which case he boosts himself to like 19 point slam, which is gigantic. Or you can pick a bunch of high value golds for carryover. Typically you do a mix of both. And then you're picking things you want to cool later and make with Artud. Let you know it's the opponent's deck. And I guess that plays for a bunch of point slam. And in the later forms, he's got assimilate and lets you replay stuff or create an assimilate card. Usually you want him in Form 1, though. That's for sure. So if you lose round 1, that's fine, because you can play him then in round 2. Prefer just draw him, though. But yeah, he's just one of the better Nilfgaard cards. Tourney Shalmar. It's pretty weak. It just recently got a buff. But the thing with Tourney Shalmar is in Nilfgaard mirrors, it does 7 damage, which is really good. However, in non-Nilfgaard mirrors, you need to be playing Pure Assimilate. And in Pure Assimilate, you'd rather have a card that synergizes with Assimilate by giving you more Assimilate triggers by spawning things, or has Assimilate on it, than this, I think. So that's kind of his weakness. But if you're ever playing in a tournament, like a casual tournament where you know everyone's going to be playing Nilfgaard, like you can probably, or like if you're talking like something fun like that, you could drop Tourney Shalmar and have some fun. But I think he generally doesn't fit in most decks, unfortunately. Traherne. Oh, Traherne. Traherne's key in Mill and sometimes played in Renfrey, just to try and snipe the opponent's win condition. Putting him in okay. If you hit the opponent's win condition with Traherne, usually you win the game. If you're playing Mill, you're playing him because he mills a card. You can like make sure it's a good card to mill too. Mill's a bad deck though. So this is more so being considered okay because of his use in like Renfrey stuff. Do I think that is fine? Yeah, we'll just put him in okay. I think I don't want to talk about this card too much. Treason is a bit weak. Treason's interesting. It's one of the more unique forms of removal. People usually don't play around it because it never gets played, but you can get people with it sometimes. It's just they have to have 3 units for you to get most value out of this. And waiting until the opponent's 3 units, typically if they're developing engines you want to remove, they're developing those first. And you want your removal to be one of the first cards you play out of your hand, which makes this one pretty hard to get value out of for removing stuff a lot of the time, because they've already used like a couple turns of the engines getting points, or like they've used the order on the card you'd want to kill. But it can be used in later rounds. Sometimes I just think that it's too expensive. Like you don't want to be paying 7 to do this. Next up, we have Dooney, Urshan of Erlenwald. 1 point a turn. The problem with him. I'll just put him here while we're talking. Each faction has one of these 7 provision cards that has like 1 point a turn engine, approximately, and then can click its order to do something for temporary value. All the factions have these cards. They all came out at the same time. And they're interesting design. I like the design. The problem with Dooney is that his form swap has to have synergy with Spine. Whereas a lot of the other ones are like, do 3 damage, spawn a token that gives you points. They don't need as much synergies. He does. And that really holds him back. So I kind of think that he's still weak, even with being at 5 power. No, not in bad. In weak. I think he's still weak, unfortunately. His swap form needs to get value from like having a Fergus go out or something. Because just 7 for 7. The idea is you use him for a few turns. If he's in danger, you flip him. but you really need that spine to be out there because he's not going to be endangering hit twice. They're just either going to kill him or not care, and they probably won't care because he's probably not that good. Usurper is actually a good card. Usurper has some uses in Status Aristocrats in particular, where he's actually quite strong, because in the third form, because it's a devotion deck, he spawns the 2 tokens, and you seize them back. The 2 tokens you spawn both have spines, so it procs your engines twice, and then you also get them to your board, and he gets points when you play additional guys. So pretty good in that deck. If you're playing other decks, you can run him sometimes as like a point slammy card. I wouldn't. That kind of phase of the Nilfgaard's kind of passed away. He doesn't really function well enough for that anymore. But he's still good in Status Aristocrats, so we'll put him in good. Is there something else for that up here? Yeah, put my Fergus. All right, we just had to remove another one, but we'll go on to Vanamar, who I think is a bit weak, unfortunately. Vanamar used to see some play when comboed with the Imposter Leader ability, especially in Renfree decks, where they could use him as a cheap removal. If you'd Imposter their tall card, then Vanamar would go bam and kill it. That's not great anymore. There's better options to do, so I think he's unfortunately a bit weak. I think the usually lock will answer something. You don't have to do anything else to it, right? Like, say they have an engine or they have something that has a dangerous order, you lock it and you don't worry about it anymore. With Vanamar, you want to lock a tall card, which typically means the lock itself is not getting value, but the Vanamar destroying it is, which means you're usually making the lock's going to be worth less than normal. So I think that's probably the weakness with Vanamar, because he makes your lock card like say you're playing Alba Cavalry, it's playing as 5 for 5, and then Vanamar, like say it kills a 10. The Alba is like 3 under the provision curve there, and then the Vanamar killing it is going to be worth 10, so you're getting what? 10, 18 for 11? Yeah, but it's a 2-part setup. It makes the locks a little bit less used for what they want to do. I think he's just a bit weak, unfortunately. I'm playing Vatier and Meme. Conspiracy sees a unit. That takes so much setup. He's 3 power, and he has an order that needs to go off. That being said, the order is very, very powerful. But it's so hard to set up. It's so hard for it to work because you have to put the conspiracy out. It's just a pain to deal with. So it's really just not that great. And the floor, he just like locks something. That's atrocious. So yeah, he's going in meme tier. Renegade though. Renegade, I'm actually going to knock Renegade up to good. I think. Good or okay. We've mentioned the T-Board deck already. He is not only used in T-Board though. He's used in Mill because you can put the Regis Bloodlust into the opponent's graveyard and then take one of their cards, and when they lose around, the Regis Bloodlust just banishes 3 of their cards, which lets you mill them. He's still pretty much only played those 2 combo decks though. But he's not actually that bad outside of it. Like, I know people only play him in there, but if you take, say, the opponent's Oniromancy, like you have a choice of taking their card and you give them a 4, you've upgraded your 4 provision card by like 8 provisions. So he has some good uses. I'm gonna put him in okay because he is really good in the 2 decks he's good in because you need him. And I think he's not actually that terrible outside of it. We'll have to try him out maybe a bit. But yeah, he's very important to those decks that do play him. Vilgefortz, not Renegade. Yeah, he's going up here. Vilgefortz is the premium Nilfgaard removal card. It has 2 things going for it that really make it super strong. One is it happens to be a unit, so you can play it in Renfree decks and have a removal card that can remove anything. 2, it happens to be 9 provisions, so you can play it in Golden Necker decks. And 3, which I forgot about, is it can pull out your Hyper Thin card by destroying a random token on your board, or like a Yennefer, and then boom, you've got your Albrecht on board. Actually 4, it mills a card too. It mills a bronze, so in certain matchups that's impactful. And yeah, Vilgefortz has so much going for him. Premium removal, I'm just going to put him up here. Like, Vilgefortz is incredible. The downside to Vilgefortz is it pulls a random bronze from the opponent's deck, so sometimes they get a high value thing like a Greatsword off of it. Sometimes you pull this copy of a bronze engine you killed out of their deck, but usually you don't care because he's just removing something. Vincent is pretty good. And because of that, I'm going to put him in good by the other status stuff in here. He's a good option if you want more removal. I think often you're picking between Vincent and Usurper in these status decks. Does that mean... I do want to put him in good, though. I think he is good. Maybe we should move Usurper down. Yeah, I'm going to move Usurper down, I think. Yeah, I like that, but I think Vincent is the slightly better choice than Usurper. Yeah, I think we'll go with this. Well, was this Vivian? Set a unit's power to its provision cost. Very cool effect. Very fun to use. Kills tokens, which is funny because tokens have 0 provisions. But yeah, usually you're using this on like a Leo, that's like a Tall Punish, or like a Renfree, where if you use it on like a Leo, for example, it's playing for 12 for 8. You really need it to be like punishing things. You can punish really boosted things. I do think she's a bit weak though. Yeah, I'm going with weak. The value can exist, but usually it's dependent on the opponent boosting a bronze really tall or playing a tall token, which is pretty hard to play around. And if you're boosting your own card, it has to be really expensive to be worth it. And if I'm going to boost my Renfree, I would rather probably just not be boosting my Renfree. Play like just Meteor Shower or something. Vreemed is... I'm going to put him in weak as well. I know we've been playing Vreemed a bit this season, but Vreemed really only combos well with Derelin Soldiers and Slave Infantry. Derelin Soldiers, he has a 12 for 6 play on, which is solid. Like, that's good. Just a little bit of setup to do, and sometimes you lose a soldier right away, so then he's a 10 for 6. At 10 for 6, there's much better things at 10 for 6 with a lower floor. Like Nausicaa Sergeant, for example, is often just a better 10 for 6, and there's other things as well. So you really want him to be hitting 4 targets, which is the issue because it's only Dareler and Soldier and Slave Infantry that will usually let you do that unless you're spamming Illusionists. And Dareler and Soldier is the better one because it's more consistent. Spamming Slave Infantries can be done, especially if they're like overbuffed as they currently are in this patch as of this recording. But I think he needs a buff tooth though, unfortunately. Because the payoff of 2 above rate for a 6 version card compared to Nausicaa Sergeant is not worth the floor of him not hitting targets. This Vrugif, also weak. He activates your flanking effects of your soldiers. I prefer the old version to do more stuff with it, but we're stuck with what we have right now. And activating the flanking effects of soldiers will typically be 4 value, which means he's playing 11 for 6 if you have 2 flanking soldiers. If you have 2 flanking soldiers, you are already probably winning and don't need a Vrugif to activate them again. Or at least you're already doing pretty well. So I don't think he really makes the cut. Next up we have Viper. Viper is a meme card. That being said, meme cards can be fun, and Viper is the most meme of the meme cards, I think. Yeah, Viper can be fun. That being said, it's just really bad. You need to give it to your opponent with Vilgefortz Renegade. We didn't even talk about that with Renegade, but you can do that as well. And then it comes out and you imposter it, you Catervine it, you coup it, make a bunch of your own. Then round 2 they all come back, and then you get a big point swing, and then you purify them and do it again, type of deal. But yeah, not even to do it again. You usually just try and get them with the coming back round 2. It's not good though. It's really, really, really bad. But it's fun. We'll put them here. War Council is fantastic. Let's just throw that up in the top tier here. War Council gives carryover. It gives consistency by looking at the top 3 cards of your deck. And those things are very important. It synergizes very well with Soldiers and Shoop because those cards are also doing carryover from things like Bakala and Shoop and Mushy Truffle. So if you just have a bunch of carryover cards on the board, you will probably win round 3 because you're getting so many points. And this is a great way to do that. The fact that it plays Battle Preparation can enable Assimilate. It can armor up your soldiers, which is what it's usually played for. And it's just very good. Very, very good. Next up we have We're It All Seeing. Or no, yeah, I think that's what it is. He's the All Seeing. He is pretty weak. The idea when he came out is you'd use him to combo with Cantarella. You put the highest provision card on top of their deck, and then all of a sudden you can play their highest provision card. The issue with him is that you're doing that for a good cost. Like 8 provisions is a pretty high cost to do that with. When you can just do it with Courier and look at the top 3, or you can do Gorther and take it out of the graveyard. And the other one, putting the lowest provision, you pretty much, like, it's a fake clog. You'd rather clog them. So I think actually we're going to drop him down to bad, to be honest. Yeah, I think he's going to go down in bad. We might be too generous on some of these. We'll take a look back here in a minute at the end. We're almost the end of golds. So Zarthesius is pretty good for hyper thin. He's the best hyper thin payoff because he boosts by the unit. Like, it's better than Yennefer, and that makes him the best at what he does. Hyper thin, the red version is pretty good with 3 ants. I'm gonna put him in good. Yeah, I'll put him in good. And lastly, Yennefer's Invocation is a card that is held back through no fault of its own, but I'm still putting in good tier. Yennefer's Invocation is a hard removal that doesn't care about the opponent's unit. It can be 10,000 points. It can have 10 million armor. It can have whatever. Be immune to damage, and it'll still remove it from the board. And the opponent can't bring it back, just like the upside of Heatwave. Why do you not see people with Yennefer's Invocation? It is not a tactic. It is a spell, which means it's hard to play if you're trying to use Dion and Stefan and stuff like that. And you already have Vilgefortz, which can do the same thing on a unit body. And in order to get the benefit of this, you have to play it again. Nilfgaard, it just has a lot of control. It has so much control that you kind of have to pick between it. And Yennefer, unfortunately, Invocation usually falls near the bottom of the order of which you pick your tall removal in. Usually it's like Vilgefortz, Leo, and then Yennefer if you really want the third one. But it is still very good. I'm putting it in good. I still think it's a very good card. And that should do it for the golds. Let's take a look over the golds here, see if we feel like moving anything down. They're not ordered within the tiers. If they were, I'd move like some of these around, but they're not. The tiers are their own thing. We're not ordering them within the tiers. Yes, that feels good. I could see this going down to okay. I think this one going down to okay, and Rico, which I don't know how to rate Rico. We're just putting him there. I think that would make sense. You can move this down. I do think I want to keep it. No, I'm going to move this down. I'm going to move it down, I think. I think I like that a little bit better. No, but make the tier wider. No, I'm just going to leave it here. Not worry about it too much. I'm not going to worry about it too much. We're just going to say it's with the Colgrim deck, and it has other uses as well. I think we'll leave it here. Near the bottom, though, if we were ordering them. Seems good. Yeah, they're not ordered within the tiers. Let me know if you guys want me to do that. Maybe next time we will. Okay, yeah, I like this. This seems good to me. Niche. I like the niche for this. Like, these are pretty meta dependent. Weak. All right, weak. I think we have too many things in it. I think some of these are actually bad. So let me take a look here. That's actually bad. Where are you? You're actually bad too. And so are you. We're not being generous here. I think that's better. Every grift. I will leave you here because you are actually a decent point body as like a tempo play. If you got like a buff, you'd be good. Whereas these, well, buff would not fix. I need like multiple buffs. All right, we'll go with this. I think I like that better. And that is the golds for Nilfgaard, guys. Let me know what you think. And then type out your comments, and we'll go on to the bronzes right now for you guys. For the Nilfgaard bronzes, we're starting off very strong. Alba Armored Cavalry. 5 for 5 Bronze Lock. Bronze Lock is a Nilfgaard thing, and this card does it the best. So it's an excellent bronze. It might even be the best Nilfgaard bronze in the game. We just start off with it. Pikeman is also very good because it enables the extra bleedings on the Thirsty Dames, and that's 2 points a turn with the flanking bleedings, which synergizes well there. It works well with the Emir, because you can play on both the same turn. I think I'm going to put it down here in good, though. I think it is a good card, but it's really shines because of Thirsty Dame. They work well together, but I don't think it's quite in the excellent tier. I think it's just a good card, good in deck. Oh, this card. Now, depending how many statuses your opponent has, you can actually get a lot of value out of this. The problem with having a lot of statuses is often you'd rather just this said poison on it and then take advantage of that poison status already on the unit to kill it. So poisons are just generally better than this getting damage value. So I'm going to put it in weak. I think it has potential, though. Vikavaru Novice is good because it cycles your deck for the Hyperthin stuff, and that's good with Albric. So it's just a good card in those decks. Amnesty is an interesting one. I'm going to put Amnesty in OK. Amnesty is Seize, and then Conspiracy boost. Seize at 3 or lower, Conspiracy boosted by 2. The Conspiracy boosted by 2 is typically mandatory for this to get value. Is a lot of the time, if you think about what we said with Sweers, with 3 being a cutoff that's pretty hard to get value on nowadays, it means Amnesty is pretty hard to get value on. Like, seizing engines is what you usually want to do, and 3 is pretty low. So it can be hard to set up. It can work if you're playing like Fire Scorpions in a tactic deck, though, because you can ping with Fire Scorpions and then seize. That's probably the best case. But I think you're better off doing other stuff most of the time. But it's not like terrible. If it was buffed, it'd be really good at 4. So I think it's kind of where it is. Angry Mob is bad, though. It does 2 damage, and like Conspiracy like boosts it by 2. 2 damage is a threshold that, for the most part, just doesn't matter. Most of the time, 2 damage will not kill anything. It's like a 2-step kill. Think about Caro Ballista, for example. The 2 damage really kills anything on its own. You do the 2 damage with the Caro Ballista so you can hit it with something else. And then the Caro Ballista obviously recycles. Or resets cooldown eventually. This just does 2 damage. It doesn't matter. So it just the damage has to be value rather than removal. And value damage just has to be good. And this is Conspiracy. Means it has to be spying. Often you're hitting a Disloyal card with this, which is only 1 damage. It's just way too bad. Like, this needs power buffs, and it's not good. Heavy Cavalry is going in excellent because of its interaction with Crystal Skull. So if you go Heavy Cavalry Crystal Skull, it will prevent itself from locking because it will have Veil, and then you get 2 damage each time your opponent plays a unit. The first unit they play each turn, which is pretty much all their units. That is very good, and that's mostly why it's used, and it is extremely good at that. So I'm going to put it in excellent because of that interaction. Light Cavalry. How would I rank Light Cavalry? The Nilfgaard Soldier deck really is about the bronzes. I think Crosswoman's better. It's a good card. I'm going to leave this in good. I think Light Cavalry is a good card. It has some weaknesses because the opponent can remove its barricade fairly easily. It's got low power, like 3 with 1 armor is pretty easy to kill. It usually needs a leader protection. And the other thing with it is if the opponent plays a special card, you don't get to hit their thing. Like, often you'll end up killing the last unit they played, and then they play specials and you're missing. And they can avoid letting you do stuff like that. So you can't control where the damage goes either, so that's a little unfortunate. Taurus is a good card because of Renfrey and Triss. It's high base power, which enables Triss, and it is a soldier you can throw out early to enable Darelin soldiers to come out of your deck and thin, so it's good for that. Crossbowman, I think, is better. I think if Crossbowman goes up here. Crossbowman engine, you have to play a soldier to keep activating it, but I think it's better than this because of the threshold, right? It's 4 with 1 armor. It's very good. That's hard to remove if you give it a leader charge. And even if you don't give it a leader charge, you play it ranged with flanking, it needs 6 to remove, which can be an issue. And the random pings don't even need the flanking, right? Like if it's just doing one random ping each turn, it's not too bad. I think it is an excellent engine card. I think Light Cavalry is pretty close. I just put this one above it. They might deserve to be in the same tier though. I will put them in the same tier. Changed my mind. This one is better though. All right, we have to make a quick adjustment here. I had the Heavy Cavalry on here twice. He's 3 base power now. I still put him in the same tier though. He still fulfills the same function really well. And you often will just play this with Crystal Skull in the decks and hoping you draw it. Next up, we have Assassination, which I think is good. It has a 6 damage reach on the first card, the opponent first unit on a row. And then after that, 5 damage is still good. The fact that it can reach 6, though, can be very useful. So I think it's a good card. It's a good removal tool. Don't have much else to say about it. Battle preparation. Okay, we need to have the Jan talk here. We need to have the Jan talk. So, Jan. We talked about him earlier. Jan makes all of the 4 provision tactic cards playable in every deck he's in because you put them in your deck, he puts them to the bottom, and you never play them and you never see them. The only time you see them is if you draw them in your opening hand and decide, okay, this situation against this opponent, I want the Obsidian Mirror. This situation, I want this card. Now, that makes all the 4 version cards, tactic cards, playable because Jan exists. I will not be taking that to account when ranking these 4 precision bronzes. I'll be ranking them on their own because the fact that they're 4 precision tactic and Jan can stack them to the bottom, making him good and make you not have to spend extra provisions on using him in your deck. I will not really be taking that into account when we're ranking these bronze cards. So just know that Jan is incredible and you have to play these. A certain number of these, I should say. And that just is what it is. We're going to take them without the Jan into consideration, because otherwise I have to put every 4 provision tactic in the top tier. That being said, battle preparation is pretty solid, because you can use it with Magni Divisions is often what you do. You Magni Division cycle this, and that's pretty good in the tactic decks that don't play the Assimilate packages. In that deck, you want to play these tactics still for your Stefan, which is another reason we could talk about. But for the most part, you're playing this with your Stefan. Same deal, you want tactics. We're going to have to expand on this. Jan and Slave and Stefan, they all want you to play tactics. You want your tactics to be 4 version cards, so they're all good. Like, they kind of have the same deal going on, just magnified the most with Jan, because you need, like, Jan's the most obvious thing here. But it's the same deal with Stefan and the Enslaved Leader. You want to play all the tactics, which makes them playable. So we're going to, the same deal. We're going to talk about these cards outside of that, or at least as much as we can. This is good with Magni Divisions because it develops points on your special cards. A lot of the problems with special cards can be they don't develop points on your board. This does, and the armor will often be useful. Specifically, if you put this like Magni Divisions is what you usually do. And that's what you do with it. I think I will put it in the good, because it does go with Magni Divisions in that deck. And if you have a 4-person slot left in your soldier deck and you have all the soldiers you want, it's pretty good for re-armoring a barricade unit. Blightmaker and Mage Assassin we'll talk about at the same time. I don't see how else to do this. We could, but I think it's better to do it at the same time. So Blightmaker stacks a card at the top of your deck. If it's a mage, it spawns the Guardian token. That's what the token is called with Cynthia. I just randomly remembered. And if it was a, whatever it's called, the other thing, you get a cow carcass. You always do it with the Mage Assassin, for the most part. At least as it used to be the case. Now you can do Mage Assassins out of your hand with Tactical Decision, which became much more popular than actually playing the Blightmakers, depending on your deck. But what you can do with the Blightmaker is stack your Triss, because she's a mage. You often do that with your Renfrey decks. You like run one of these and stack the Triss. Now, Mage Assassin coming off of Blightmaker is still a very solid play, because you get 10 points on your board, right? 4, 3, and 1. That's 9 actually, and you 2 damage the opponent. So that's 4, 3, and 1 is 8. And then you do 2 damage to the opponent. Yeah, it's 10. It's a 10-point tempo play that thins your deck by 1. I'm going to put these 2 in excellent still. Blightmaker, I could see going in good, because often the Tactical Decision leader is used instead of having the Blightmaker, and you like play like a 1 of Blightmaker in case you miss one of your Mage Assassins. I can see that, but it's often played in other Nilfgaard decks as well that don't want to play Jan. The problem is Jan. Like, Jan just is, if you're playing Jan, you don't need this. So you play this in Renfrey decks, and in Renfrey decks, now you just play Tactical Decision. So I think I actually will drop this down to tier. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense. Mage Assassin is just, with Tactical Decision, better nowadays than this, pulling it most of the time. So I will split them up like this. I think this is better because of how it interacts with the Tactical Decision leader and the fact that it's the card that thins. Buhurt! Great card. Actually going in the excellent tier. Buhurt specifically has some very strong synergies, because what you do with it is you boost up an opponent's unit and you Evar it. You boost up the opponent's unit, you Vilgefortz it. You boost up the opponent's unit, that's a false Siri, and then you get the unit back. You play it so you can false Siri this card. Works great in Knights, works great with all the tall punish you can run, and if that's getting value, you're getting 9 points off of this. So that's pretty good if you're removing the points you give your opponent anyway, which often is the case. So this is very good for a 4 Precision Bronze tactic. Coded Weapons is a clog card. It's pretty good at clogging the opponent. So we're just going to put it up here. If you don't want Assassination's inconsistency against certain matchups, you can play this instead. You don't want to do that though, because what happens is if you kill the opponent's card that you want to kill with this, they're getting another copy of it. So say you kill their Percival, like you ping it or something, they have their Percival for the next round. So typically you want to use this just for the clogging effect. But sometimes in a round, like say you're in a round, say you tied round 1, so they don't get to do round 2, giving them their copy of something doesn't always matter, but Assassination is the better removal card. This is just up here because you want to play it in a clog, and it's good in that deck. Ooh, the Engineer. Engineer is pretty weak, unfortunately. Now, there used to be a deck with this guy and the Rot Tossers, and that deck, the idea was you would teleport this guy, give your Rot Tossers a bunch of charges, give out like a Defender, or you had to put out Defender, or give Zeal with like a Petrie's Filter, and then you just go bam, 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 put a Cow Carcass every other card on the opponent's board, they all die, and you win the game. That deck was nerfed, like massively nerfed. I think it lost like 8 provisions in one patch. It's not really playable, unfortunately. And outside of that deck, you can give Fire Scorpion, Hefty Helga, and Mangonel are the main things you give charges to outside of that. Mangonel's not too bad, but Hefty Helga and Fire Scorpion don't need the extra charges. You'd rather play a tactic. And at 5 provisions, you're paying quite a bit to do this, which is not good. I'm putting this in bad. What is this, Contamination guy? Contaminator? He banishes a 3 or lower power thing, and if it wasn't a token, you give a copy to bomb the opponent's deck. That's just not good. It doesn't work as removal. We talked about this before. The 3 damage, 3 power range is pretty hard to get value in. And it doesn't matter if you give them a card in the bottom of the deck. If you're playing Clog, you're playing something else that's more consistent at clogging than this. So this is weak. Although I think it might work as a 4. Courier is good, actually. Courier is actually pretty good. So where is it here? What about Vikavara Novice? Same deal. Works very well in the hyper thin decks, giving you consistency. Actually works well in mill as well if you're going to play something like Cantarella, because you can then stack a good card to the top of the opponent's deck to take. That's pretty good. And it just is good in the different hyper thin decks, Renfrey Rience type of stuff. Derlin Soldiers is also pretty good. Put it by its buddy here, the Tortoise. The reason these work so well together is your opponent is unlikely to kill this, so then you just play this, and it thins your deck by the other soldiers. Now, Derlin Soldier is a bit interesting, because it puts 2 more copies of it in your deck, which means you have 4 copies. Which means your draws are a little bit less consistent, because you could draw like 2 of these, and you're more likely to draw bronzes in your opening hand. But then it thins out more cards for later, so it's a bit interesting. It's definitely worth it in Renfrey decks in particular. And if you're playing Slave Infantry, it's also pretty good because you can transform these as targets, which is nice. I do think it's good because it goes in those decks. Arbalist. It's okay. So Arbalest has 6 counters. Each time you put out a status on enemy unit, it pings it and it does 1 damage. And then you lose a counter. So it plays for 10 eventually. The problem is often these statuses will be poisons, and then if you're pinging a poison card, you're not really getting value, right? Because you're gonna get poisoned to die anyway. So often you're not getting the full 10 value. This card used to be unlimited a long time ago, but now it's 6 counters capped. It's okay though, you can run it. It works well with the pikemen, for example. It works well with giving out spyings. So you can still get value from it sometimes. It's just I think the other options are better. Same deal here for Ducal Guard. Ducal Guard, I mean, it only works Imperial Formation, which is true of some cards as well. That doesn't necessarily mean it's bad because it only works with 1 leader. But you have to use a leader charge, and then if you do, it gets 2 points. Now, if we think about that, we really want to be using the leader charge anyway, and not just using a leader charge because this is on board. That being said, if you're running like a Damien soldier deck with a bunch of leader charges, which, I mean, I have seen it a couple times, you can get good value on this guy actually. Like, if you use 2 leader charges while he's on the board, he is playing for 9 for 4 with the flanking, if you use your best flanking option, which can be quite good. Like, it can actually get you a lot of value. Just, I think, the situation where you want this guy, if you're already wanting to use leader charges, then he's fine. But don't know if that comes up often enough for me to think he's a good card. Duchess Informer's pretty good. A copy of the opponent's unit will never be bad, because the opponent's units, if they're good, you get a copy, and that's good, and triggers Assimilate. The weakness of her Duchess Informant is not that she's bad, it's more so that the Assimilate pure decks have fallen out of favor for Assimilate Tactics and Assimilate Enslave over time. That being said, if you want to play like a Brothans, for example, she's still pretty good, and she works pretty well in the Assimilate decks. And same deal for Emissary here. Emissary goes in the same tier as Brothans, because usually you're playing them together. Usually you like play this and there's as 2 options for Brothans, but Emissary is kind of fine outside of that. It's 7-point boost, and it gives Disloyal, so it can have a little bit of synergies. I just generally think it's not as good as the other options though, so I'm gonna drop it into the OK tier. So I think Duchess Former is like the best Disloyal bronze, and I think Emissaries are like your backup. It's alright. It's like a 1-of card, which for the OK tier, a lot of times for bronzes, these might be like a 1-of card you put in the deck. That's not always the case for everything goes here, but like this is a good example. The 2 cultists go in the niche tier. Same explanation as the Eclipse. It's a meta call. In devotion heavy metas, you can get away with this. There's not a lot of control, and you just win. Otherwise, you just get killed, and these are really bad. Like, these values on these cards are terrible outside of having the scenario. So they just go with it. I don't want to talk about it too much. Obviously, you need this one to give these cultist infusions, and then obviously this one you infuse later on, and stuff dies, and you get a whole bunch of points. Experimental Remedy is a good card. I'm going to put it in good, up by Assassination. It's a bit more meta dependent, but because of how good it is in certain metas, I'm going to give it good instead of okay. So I think a lot of people put this in okay. I think Remedy is, if you're just going to put a 5 precision tactic into your deck, and you have 1 slot, I would pick Remedy for the most part. Sometimes Assassination, but usually I pick Remedy, because you can get good value. Your opponent's cards are generally going to be good cards because they want to be playing good cards, and you can take one and use it. Often, you can also mess up certain graveyard-reliant things, like you could take their Griffin for Mamuna, you could take one of their Highland Warlords, stuff like that. And it can just be pretty good. In Mirror Match, you can play cards already in your deck, so I think it's just a good tactic card. I can see people putting it in okay. I think I like it, though. Let's see here. Fangs of the Empire. I'll put in good. Where's Pikeman? I'll put this by Pikeman. It's just good in poison in the Status Aristocrat deck because it has poison on it. 4 for 4 with poison is pretty fine. Just a good card in that. Same deal for Fire Scorpion. I'll say Fire Scorpion's pretty good in tactics. It's fallen a little bit out of favor, but I still think it's good enough to be a good card. Like, Fire Scorpion works well in tactics. It's just often you want your 4 Persian cards to be the tactic cards, and your payoff cards to be higher provision. And this is a 4 for 4, which means if you want to play some higher provision tactics, maybe you want to run double remedy or something, you can run this. But I actually, yeah, I think it's okay. Yeah, we'll drop it down. It's the same reasoning here, right? You have a lot of 4 provision cards in your deck, and you want them to be tactics most of the time. And then this is okay. You can run it. And between these two, I'm going to put it down here just on the basis of I haven't seen many people playing it lately. Hunting Pack, though, top tier card. 4 for 4, that thins the other copy if the opponent has a status. This kind of goes the same deal with Wild Hunt Riders. It's just so easy to activate. You will have a lock in your deck if you're playing Nilfgaard, at least one. And if you lock the opponent's thing, you can then do this. If the opponent has a Doomed card, like a token, you can play this. If they have a Veil card, you can play this. If they play Crystal Skull, you can play this. It's very easy to activate. You don't really need to actively go out of your way to set this up, and then just thins a card and plays for 8, which is very good. Illusionist. Super strong. Some of the other soldiers. Spawning a copy of something from your opponent's graveyard. Yes, the first one's 1 power, but usually you're going to Ramon this. To give you an idea of how good I think Illusionist is, Shoop decks play Illusionist, and they can't run 2 copies of it, even though it's bonded. Right, so that's a pretty good bench line to have for a card. But yeah, you can make extra copies of this. Sometimes bring back the 1 power card's fine. Like if you bring back certain Berserk cards, they trigger immediately. That's really good. It can be matchup dependent. If the opponent has high base power bronzes, like say you're playing monsters, there's a Griffin in their graveyard, and you keep playing this over and over again, Griffins, you can bring back engines, like Witch Apprentice is a great one to bring back, because it'll boost itself immediately if you have Sabbath. And it just has a lot of value. And if the opponent doesn't kill it, you're going to get so much value off the second, third, and fourth ones. And the opponent doesn't really want to be putting damage into this thing that's already gotten this ability when you're probably having like these guys out too. So Illusionist is very good. Impera Brigade, though. This isn't Brigade, this is the other one. This is Officers. It's like damages everything in a row that's spying. That is my quiz for the day to remember what this card does. I think it damages all spying cards in a row. No. No, that's not it. Come on. Often you want the spine cards to stay on the board so you can hit them with like coup and stuff and get value from seditious aristocrats. You don't want to be killing the spine cards. You want them to block their rows. You want them to leave statuses on the board, leave out coup targets. You don't want to kill them. No, this is terrible. This card used to be good. It used to be a thinning card. Now it's just terrible. Okay, where's Enforcers? I think Enforcers are okay. Mostly, Enforcers are used as a one-of in some Status Aristocrat decks to come off of a mirror. That's an okay card slot for me, I think. You can also make dedicated decks with this. I don't think it's as good, but I think it's fine. It's fine. It's a good spot here as an okay card. Diplomacy. Now this is the premium 4 provision tactic, I think, along with Booher. Just if you have a spot in your deck and you've got 4 provisions left, it's a good option in Nilfgaard most of the time. Creating bronzes, there can be some variance. There will be some variance, I should say. But if you get a 5 or 6 provision bronze, you're feeling really good most of the time. You can definitely high roll with this. In Nilfgaard mirrors, you get some real crazy stuff. Triggers assimilate as well, which really helps it up here too. So very good. Diviner. Diviners are bronze purify for this faction. It also has assimilate. I think Diviner's alright. I don't think it's the first choice you go to. That would be like Mage Torturer. But I do think it's pretty decent if you want to run a Purify. Just often you don't need the Purify. It's more so that often you don't need the Purify index running Assimilate because it's obviously has Assimilate. It goes well with Assimilate cards. But it's a 5 for 5 Purify with an engine. So I think if you're going to run like a pure Assimilate, it probably finds a spot in there maybe. But for most of the tactic Assimilate stuff, you don't really need to purify things, which means you don't often need it. So I'm going to leave it in okay, but it can be used. The ship. Okay, let's talk about this. So, this infuses an opponent's unit with, at the end of your turn, you take a damage for each flanking unit on the opposite row. You are never going to play this out of hand. Ever. No matter what. Because you can get it off of Bacala with the Marine, which develops the infusion on this and makes the Marine have the flanking to let you use this anyway. This card costs 5 provisions. That is atrocious. Often, if you're getting flankings off each turn, you're already doing well, so you probably just want to have more flanking cards to getting bonus effects than this to pay off you already having the flanking. It's like a win more bronze that costs 5, and the effect's not that good. So it's here. It's here. I think it is just above meme because 4 provisions, maybe something would play it. Where's Marine? Marine's incredible. Marine has 2 main uses. One is as a 2-point per turn engine, especially if you're playing Jan, because you know what the top card of your deck will be. The other option is it stacks things to the top of your deck, because you can just use it to stack things to the top of your deck, specifically in like Renfrey, where you want to find your Renfrey. You're like, oh, I'll just play Marine, give it a couple leader charges in formation, let it stack the Renfrey at the top of my deck for me, and then give me a bunch of points. It doesn't play well against things like Cantarella, and so with lesser extent Vilgefortz, but you're usually stacking a gold card, and Vilgefortz can't mill the gold off the top, so that's not as big a deal. But it's just really good. It's super good. You end up with 2 points a turn on this thing most of the time, and that makes it a very good card. There's Tibor. This is part of the Tibor deck. Outside of that, it's not good. It just makes a copy of the last thing your opponent put in your graveyard. So you play this, make a whole bunch of them, and then you swap the Tibor into the opponent's graveyard. You go, oh, I'm going to put 10 Tibors on top of my deck. That's the only use for this. It was nerfed from 5 to 4 power, which means it really has no place outside of that, and it will probably never have a place outside of that because people don't like that deck. So it's just, I'm going to put a niche with the Tibor for the Tibor deck. All right, let's put a little disloyal guy here. Not actually disloyal, but infiltrator dude. Okay, let's talk about this guy. So if you're clogging the opponent, you can give them this. At the end of the round, it shuffles it into their deck. There are so many problems with this. First of all, if you're clogging the opponent's deck, you want to guarantee that it's clogged. You don't want to put this 4-for-4 card on your board and have them kill it or lock it, which they probably will, because in that deck, the only other thing they want to kill or lock is going to be your Colgrim. So this is just going to take the removal. It's also 4-for-4, which is terrible. If you buff this card, it makes it better for the opponent when they end up drawing it. So that doesn't even help. Like this was, imagine you make this an 8-for-4. So it's a tempo play that you can then put into the opponent's deck and clog them. They have an 8-point play, they might just keep it. If you put it like in the mid-range, like 6-for-4, yeah, I get it, but each time you clog them with this and you buff it, it gets better for them to draw. So this card is terrible, and it's a meme card. Kingslayer we can go with okay. Mill is not a good deck. I'm going to say that right now. Mill is not a good deck. Kingslayer sometimes wins you the game because you hit their good card. That is it. Sometimes it wins you the game. You sometimes tech this. Not tech this. Like sometimes you used to tech Treyhairn into like a Renfrey deck as a win condition. You can tech a Kingslayer into decks to try and randomly win. I have seen several people do it. I think the Treyhairn option is better. And Kingslayer is 3 power for 3 power on that play, so you're paying a lot to do it. But it really is what you want to do in mill. I'm going to put my Treyhairn in okay. The same kind of deal. This is bronze, you keep repeating it. This is how you mill people. I don't think mill's a good deck, but it's like, okay, you can play this with it. And I have seen enough people put it outside of those decks to put it here. I will also just note, we should talk about creating here. Nilfgaard has a lot of ways to create things, but so do other factions. And often what you want to do if you're not sure of what you want off of Rune Mage is your Rune Mage, the Nilfgaard Runestone, and you play Kingslayer and you hope you get lucky and hit their gold, like their Svalbard, and win the game. And it's happened several times to me, so it definitely happens. It's just, yeah, I'm putting okay. We're not really counting for that here because we're just talking about putting it in your deck, but still, I think I'll put it by the tray here. Night Challenger is a weird one. He boosts himself, well, he gives himself vitality equal to the amount of boosts on an enemy card. Then at 8 Grace, he boosts all units by 1. Not just your units, all units. You can do some fun stuff with him if you're doing like a swarm deck and making copies of him. But for the most part, he's not really good enough, and that deck's not. That's like a meme deck. But if your deck naturally plays some swarm, like say Renfrey with Darylin Soldiers, maybe you get some value out of him. At the end of the day, if he does give himself 2 vitality and you boost the same number of units on both boards, it's 8 for 4, which is good. Like, very good. It's just that the inconsistency on the amount of units on both boards is a bit of an issue. I still think it's a bit weak, though. I don't think you want to put it in most decks. I think we'll put this one in okay by Emissary. As the other 4 provision Disloyal card, does 3 damage, each one's adjacent. Then if you kill one, it comes to your board. If you do that, you're usually getting 7 value out of it because it comes back to your side. That's 1 point. This is Mage Infiltrator. Not perfect. Sometimes it's useful, but I would say for the most part, you'd rather play like the other spine cards. But it's not, I wouldn't say it's weak because there's obviously no way to buff it. So it's either going to go in okay or meme because there's nowhere else it can go, and I'm putting it in okay. Like these 2 cannot be buffed because they're already minimum power for 4 provisions. To buff them, you'd buff Brathens. Mage Torturer is a very good card. I'm actually going to put it up here. Mage Torturer is excellent, I think. It sets up your coup. It's a Veil Assimilate engine that sets up the things Assimilate wants to do, which is coup and giving opponents spying. And I think that just lets it go up here. I think you always put it in your Assimilate decks as your 5 provision first choice. And I think it's really good at doing that. Speaking of really good at doing stuff, Magni Division. Let's throw that up there. Magni Division is incredibly good. It cycles your deck by 1 by playing your tactics, and it adds 2. You're basically playing the tactic out of your hand with 2 extra points and a cycle on it. That is incredible. It's very good. You thin your deck with this, and it does it very fast. You can copy it with Slave Driver and stuff, so super good. Mangonel's okay. Or is it weak? I'll go with weak. The problem with Mangonel is it used to be good with the Rock Tosser deck type of ideas, but that deck doesn't exist. So Mangonel doesn't really have a deck, which means it needs to get value on its own, which is possible. It does damage, and then it does an extra damage for each unit next to the target with a status, with a spying status, I believe. So it's hard to set up without like a dedicated deck, but in a dedicated deck it gets a lot of value. Just outside of that, it doesn't quite get enough. It's almost there though. I'm not going to put it in bad. Like it's almost there. It's pretty close. Yeah, we'll vote Mangonel in weak. I think that makes sense. Master of Disguise. We'll put him in okay. He's a 4 for 4 engine that he's a 4 for 4 that is an engine if the opponent has a locked card. In Nilfgaard, it's pretty easy to lock an opponent's card, but it's not the best engine. But if you're playing a lot of locks, you might use it as an engine. It's okay. I think I like this. Yeah, I think this makes sense. Either here or weak. It's on the border for me, but I'm going to leave him okay for now. Master of Puppets. No, he is weak. I'm putting him down here. No one plays Master of Disguise. We're replacing him with Master Puppets. Get it? Master Puppets has puppeteered him down. Anyway, pretend I didn't say that. Master of Puppets. It swaps with the opponent's unit. Bronze unit. So at the end of the round, if you do this, they don't get the opportunity to swap it back because those have the cooldown, or you can lock it after you give it to the opponent. You can also coup it at 3, which is pretty funny, though no one really does that. But yeah, it's okay. There's usually better ways to get value than playing Master of Puppets. But if you want to play Master of Puppets with Petrie's Filter, primarily so you can get the Zeal on it, that's pretty decent. It's just you're paying a lot to set that up, which is not great. Where Master of Puppets really shines is made of Artorias Vigio, where it's 1 power, or we just RNG into it, and then you can swap the opponent, which is why it has been nerfed down to 3 power to make that less punishing. It's better if your deck is playing towards it, and worse if you're getting it randomly now. So I think that makes sense. Yeah. I think it's an okay card. Menagerie person. Menagerie manager. Beast tamer, whatever I call this thing. I always call it a beast tamer. It's not its name, though. Reminds me of the Hearthstone card. Anyway, this is weak. It does 2 damage and 2 bleeding if you're holding a tactic. Conditional 7 for 4 is not the power line of Gwent at the moment. It just needs a power buff. Not much else to say there. Brigade's actually pretty good at 2 power. This card used to just be played to come out of your deck with infusions to get multiple engines on board with the cultist scenario. But at 2 power, this card actually gets a decent amount of play now with Offerings and All God because you buff them up and then they pull out around 3 as like a part of a finisher combo with Nausicaa Sergeant, which is interesting. And you can also thin with it in certain decks now because 2 power is like it's twice as much as 1. That's pretty good. The problem with it is you have to lose a round and then you play this and it comes out. But Nilfgaard doesn't really mind losing rounds because you have Sergeant as well. So this actually has some good play now. I think it's pretty solid. There he is. Nausicaa Sergeant. I don't have, like, there's so many good things to say about this card. At 6 provisions for a bronze, it plays for 10 if you've lost a round. Losing a round is an incredibly easy position because you never have to keep playing round 1. There's no situation where you technically have to keep playing round 1. You can just pass at any point. Sure, some decks might win if they win round 1, but for the most part, you're never forced to play this round 1. So you always have the choice of playing this with its effect or not. Because if you are in round 2 and you won round 1, well, you don't have to push them round 2. You can just keep your Nausicaa Sergeant for round 3. You're never forced to play it there. And if they're playing round 2 because they won the first round and they're pushing you, well, then it's online. So you never have to play this without its condition being online unless you want to. Which is different from some other cards, right? So you're pretty much always playing this at 10 for points. 10 for 6 is very good. It has the 2 armor, which sometimes, well, pretty often, I'll say like 50% of the time, the 2 armor comes up, it blocks like a ping or something. You can make copies of this with Slave Driver, stuff like that. It can enable soldier engines by re-putting the armor back on them. It enables assimilate by spawning battle preparation. All this is very good, but it's very good. Excellent card. But 4 for 6 is where it should be. At 3 for 6, it's not good enough, I don't think. So, yeah, 4 for 6. This card, I only mentioned that because this card has been changed on the Balance Council more than any other card in the game. And as of this month of recording, for the first time ever, the first time in 2 years, it has not been on the Balance Council. Hopefully it stays here, but it will be very strong if it does. Nilfgaardian Knight is alright. We'll put that in the OK tier. Is a 9 for 5 if you play it first. And in stuff like Knights, where you don't care about boosting the opponent's cards, or you boost their tallest card because you're going to Vilgeforce it anyway, you keep the 9 for 5, and it works well with Triss and like Renfrey decks. Sometimes you play one of these. It's alright overall, but usually there's better cards to put in. Obsidian Mirror is alright as well. I think I want to put it here. Mirror is like a one of sometimes, right? It can be good and it can be bad. Now, have I been blown out completely by Obsidian Mirror? Yes, I have. Like, they pick 3 Thrive cards, that's good. What really happens is they pick like 3 Berserk cards, and they come as 1 power, and they all transform. Oh boy, that's something alright. Hate to see it. Or they like pick 3 copies of some engine you can't deal with. Like 3 Witch Apprentices, have had that happen to me before. Like 2 Witch Apprentices, and then, no, that was 3. They got 3. Because I incubied. How did I get 3? I was pretty sure I had 3. Oh, I operated. Yeah, I operated 1 earlier in the game because I didn't draw what else I wanted to operator. Then I ended up with 3, and then they hit 3 of them with Obsidian Mirror. I was like, well, that's great there. But yeah. Anyway, that aside, Obsidian Mirror is a pretty decent card. Like, usually you don't want to play it. It's a card you play in your deck because you have, like, Yana, Stefana stuff, which we said we're not really taking into account too much here. But if you're... Sometimes it's really good. Like, some situations it's really good. Sometimes it's bad. So, matchup dependent. And I think it's alright. Ointment, though, is pretty bad. It's bad enough in dropping it down to meme. It gives you a bit of a boost. The heal really doesn't matter. Or not the heal, the boost. The end activates the end of turn effect of your soldier. Right, because they changed this thing a while back. And no one used it before that, and no one used it after. And this is a pretty meme card. Yes, it's a 4-person tactic. All the other ones are better, so no one uses this. Recruits. Recruits is pretty good. Recruits is pretty good. Has use in Ivo decks, where you want to cycle with it. And it can also find your better soldiers. If you have a 4-person slot, and you're like, I want a soldier in that slot because I want more activations for crossbowmen, you could use this one to also do that and like find your crossbowmen and stuff. So he's not too bad. It also lets you play 2 engines in 1 turn, because you can have him on board, click him, play an engine, then play 1 out of hand. So I think he's actually pretty good. I wouldn't say he's the best thing, though, so I will drop him into the OK tier. I still think he's pretty good, but I think I'll put him in this tier. Yeah, we'll put him here. I like that better. He's still pretty good, but he's going to go in the OK tier. I don't think he's as good as the stuff above him. Rot Tosser. Oh, where is Mangonel? This card's worse than Mangonel. Put him here. Rot Tosser, same deal with the Engineer. You gave this extra charges with the Engineer and spawn a bunch of cow carcasses. That deck's really bad now, and doesn't really have any uses outside of that, so we'll give him bad. It's not quite meme. Seditious Aristocrat is a good card. Good card in status aristocrats because it gets a lot of points from having spying out. It's nice as well because you put the spying out first, you still get the value because you play this and it gets deploy +1 for each spying card, which is really nice because you can like have a couple spyings out. Like say you play Fergus and you drop this out of your hand at 7, and it still gets points for more of the spying, which is nice. So it's a good card. Slave Driver is an excellent card though. Who knew? Getting copies of the thing you need is really good. Typically you hit this on the Nausicaa Sergeant. That plays for 10. It's basically a second Nausicaa Sergeant. And then it's also good to get an extra copy of a lock sometimes. You're paying 1 because it's a 6 provision play to get the extra lock, but it enables assimilate all the time. Just typically in soldiers, you're just getting a little bit less premium value if you have to play the extra lock. Great for extra Nausicaa, or no, extra illusionists. Great for extra marines. And super flexible, super useful, super good. Oh, Slave Catcher. This card is really bad. Problem with Slave Catcher is it just doesn't make sense. Like, why would you want to use this ability? I mean, yeah, sure, technically you can set this up to knock something down to 1, then get a 1 power copy. Why would I want to do that? I don't see it. This card's really bad. Alright, we'll have to make a note here. Slave Infantry. As of this, I'm recording this in November 2025. Specifically in November 2025, for some reason, some people decide to troll and make this 6 power instead of 5. At 6 power, it is an 11 for 4 with very easy to meet condition of just hitting a 1 power unit like Mage Assassin, or a 10 for 4 on a Dairyland Soldier. 100% will be reverted at the end of this month because it was a dumb change. However, like I said, we're rating cards out how they are right now, but I left the caveat, if I know something is getting immediately reverted, we're going to rate it as of that because we want this to be a resource until the next time we do it for people as best we can. And for that reason, yes, this card is broken. I'm putting it in the good tier because we know it's going back to 5 where it's just a good card. There's Dairyland Soldier. Besides, I have a whole bunch of videos scheduled to come out, and this might not come out till the end of November, and then it'll be relevant for 1 patch. But yeah, I'm going to put the Slave Infantry here, knowing it will be at 5. Currently at 6, it is obviously the best bronze in the entire Nilfgaard faction, but it's going back to 5, so we're just putting it here, accounting for that. Spotter. Spotter makes a Spotter deck. The Spotter decks is okay. I think the other soldier decks are better, but I will put Spotter in okay. The idea with this is you boost up something in your deck a whole bunch, like Nilfgaard Knight with Offerings and All God, and then you play this, and then you get a bunch of points on it with the order. It's vulnerable to getting locked, which is a bit of a problem, but outside of that, it's really hard to deal with because it gets a bunch of armor from the opponent's top card. You look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck and get armor for it. So it can be really hard to remove without armor ignore, which is super uncommon, or without locks, but it is vulnerable to locks. That being said, if they spam a bunch of these out and you didn't stop them, you're looking at a lot of value. But I just think all the other versions of soldiers are typically better, but this one's like, it's playable. You can do it. All right, hold on a second. We got Vendel, Elite, and Standard Bearer. Which one is which? I always get this wrong. This one's Standard Bearer, this one's Vendel Elite, I think. So let's do this. Standard Bearer is not good. It's not good. Yeah, it like gets +1 for each boosted unit on the opponent's row, and that just is not very good. I have to double check on that. Hold on a second here. Left this open in case we have to check something. Yes, Standard Bearer and boost self for each boosted enemy unit. Okay, we're good. We got the name right, and we got the effect mostly right too. It's just all units, not just the row. So Standard Bearer is not good. The problem with him is for him to get value, you want to consistently see 3 or 4 boosted enemy units. That's not common enough, and the floor is pretty low. 5 for 5 you never want to play. So the upside is there. Like, say you're playing against Symbiosis with Aquin, you play for like 20. Like, there's potential. Just those decks aren't that common, and the floor is too low, unfortunately. So Vendel Elite, bit weak. I think maybe at 6 it might actually finally see play. We'll see though. Turncoat's okay. Turncoat basically does the same thing as Mage Torturer, where you play it to give spying to an enemy unit to enable stuff, and then it can do like a damage ping. Just I think it's okay because all the other stuff you want to do with spying is a bit better. So I think I like it here. You can play as like a one-of, like a backup to your Mage Torturer. You can play it if you don't have a provision for the Mage Torturer because you want to really do something specific. Or you can try and use it to enable full spying type of scenarios. Thirsty Dame. Thirsty Dame. One of the highest ceiling bronze engines in the game. Do we put anything else from this deck up here? It really is about Thirsty Dame though, isn't it? I'll just throw her in here somewhere then. Thirsty Dame. Yeah, it gets a point each time your opponent gets a status. Ardfian on board gives like 1 or 2 statuses per turn. Stuff like Fergus puts out a bunch of statuses. Whenever you put up Poison, you have a bunch of statuses. You can copy them with Servant. There's a lot of ways for us to get a ton of value. And against opponents' decks that spawn tokens, well, those have statuses on them, giving your opponent, they give themselves vitality, they give themselves statuses. So this can get out of hand very, very quickly. Very good. Tourney Joust. Well, I said Diplomacy is the standard 4 provision. I think I was wrong because I forgot about this card. This is going up here too. Tourney Joust is excellent. It's 4 damage on a control card with upside of ignoring shield, which will sometimes matter quite a bit. So that's nice. Lets you kill annoying engines with shield like Hefty Helga, Life-Slice Seductress if they paid for the shield, stuff like that. And outside that, 4 damage is pretty good, and it has the upside if you can play it on your own units to give them shield and boost them to protect them. So very flexible, very good card. Do I really want to put an excellent though? I think I do. I think I like it up here. Knight Errant's a meme card. This Toussaint Knight Errant, I think is what it is. This card is atrocious. So it does like 2 damage. And it has like 4 damage if the opponent's card's 6 or higher. I believe that's what this does. No one's ever played this in their life, so we'll just double check. Yeah, Toussaint Knight Errant. Yeah, you know what? We got it exactly right. You know what? That's pretty funny. Okay, here's the thing. We've said this before. Damage has 2 purposes. The first is to remove something. The second is damage can be good, I should say, in 2 situations. 1, if it removes something. 2, if it's enough of value that it plays on the provision points for provision curve to be worth it. Now, This can only kill something at 2 or less power. That is very bad for control. It only gets 7 value if it hits something that's 6 or more power. So a fake tall punish, a bronze tall punish. You know what's better? Spores. 7 for 4 is not it. The 4 damage doesn't matter. If you're hitting something that's 6 or higher, often you want to use a better tall punish on it and actually punish the card. This just doesn't have the value. Its base power is way too low. I'm putting it down here. Yeah, we can make this 7 base power and it'd be good, but come on. It's never going to be good, I don't think. Toxicologist is pretty good, though. Toxicologist enables the abduction, enables clogging, and that's all pretty good. Not much else to say about this. It's just good if you're playing an abduction deck, like a Sandor deck type of thing. It's good with clog decks, and it's good with abduction and Sandor. If you're going to play like, say, a small abduction package, say you're going to do constructs with Cynthia, it's a good backup card to have in your deck as well. And often it just gets enough value on its own, because if you infuse something, it takes a ping damage. When it puts the thing in the deck, that's 5. If the opponent thins 2 cards, well, then it's done 7 for 4, which is alright. So usually this is just good enough value on its own that doesn't even need like the abduction synergy to be okay. This has the upside. Turncoat. Oh, we did the wrong turncoat. Let me remove the other one for a second here. Alright, here we have to make a quick edit, guys. We had both the turncoats in here. It's 5 power. I put the 4 power picture in here too. I meant to swap those out. I had them both in, but yeah, it doesn't change my evaluation of the card. But yeah, it is 5 power, so put the right picture in. On the Van Morlehelm Hunter, which is an excellent card. If you want a 4 provision lock, and that is not easy to come by, you can play this. You could play Dimeridium Shackles in neutral, but this is better because it's a unit, and Renfree will often run it. It's an aristocrat, so it goes well with aristocrats. Just a very good card. I'm putting it in excellent tier for its flexibility and how useful it is in the decks that it likes to go in. Where's Thirsty Dame? Stick it next to that. Can't really tell because they're in different rows, but we'll do it. Servant is pretty good. It's good in these status aristocrat decks for getting extra copies of locks and stuff. Really only used there, but it does have some decent value. Put it here. I think it's about the same as this. Like, it gets good value. You can often get like a copy, like 2 statuses, like a block and like a bleeding or something, and that's pretty good. I think it's just a good card. On to Venendal Elite. We have to talk about this. So Venendal Elite was part of a 2-step plan to change it from 5 for 5. It boosts, well, first of all, it boosts itself by 1 for each tactic in your hand. So it was 5 for 5. It's now 4 for 5. The goal was to make this from 5 for 5 to 4 for 4 and have a 4 provision card you could play in your tactic deck as a unit. The second half of that buff never went through, so the card literally just got nerfed, and it is bad. It is like terrible. If you have 4 tactics in your hand, it's an 8 for 5. 4 tactics is a lot. There's much better things you could do. And yeah, this card is just really bad until it finishes getting its adjustment. So we'll leaving it here. The Kavari Novice. I thought we did Novice. I'm pretty sure it was in the right power level. Oh, we did Alchemist. We're stupid. Guys, I have this, I'm going to zoom this in for you guys when we're in the actual video editor. I'm pretty far zoomed out on my screen, and these things look very similar. Let me just fix that. Make a note of it. I won't make a note of it. You guys can see me mess up in real time. And as long as this is on there, you can still comment on it if you wish. So, Novice is good. Alchemist is meme tier. I could pretend that was on purpose, but it wasn't. Yeah, Alchemist is a meme tier card. It swaps the unit's power, which you just use this with Living Armor. Because the Living Armor keeps its power, but that's pretty meme. Like, that strategy is not good. It's funny, though. Viper Witcher Student is pretty good. It's a decent engine. It works pretty well in Hyperthin, and it works really well in Clog. Like, those are the 2 situations you'd use it. It's pretty good in them to have a 1-point engine. Alchemist. Viper Witcher Alchemist, we should say, because there already is an Alchemist. Is meme. So this looks like a random card from the opponent's deck and boosts himself by that much. Against Ogroids, you can often get a pretty big card. Against monsters, fruits, there's often like a 8-point bronze or something, but it's too random. It's not good. Yeah, it's too random, and the floor is so low, and you're often getting like a 6 for 5, which is terrible. Sometimes you get a 2 for 3 for 5. Yeah, this card's really bad. Mentor is alright though. It's more of a one-off card than anything else. But often near the end of the round, if you can just play this, it'll get a good amount of value if you're running one of it. Usually you get this off of Gorther, not playing it in your deck, but you can play it in your deck. It's not that bad. I just think most of the other stuff's better. And then Viper Witcher, where is Colgrim? I'm going to say Viper Witcher's pretty okay. Where's Colgrim? Where did we put him somewhere? I think we said he was good, right? Colgrim is a good card, I think. Yeah. This is the best Clog Bronze. I think we'll drop him in here by the other one. Yeah, I think it's alright. I think Colgrim's a decent enough deck. We'll put this up here because this is the clogging bronze card you want to play. Yeah, that'll do it, I think, for the Nilfgaard bronzes. Hopefully us moving things out of order with the wrong picture a couple times didn't harm you too much. I tried to cut most of it out, or I will try. I'll probably forget a couple things. And just remember that Alchemist and Vikavar Novice have different pictures than I thought they did. So, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I think as we look over this, we're pretty happy with everything ended up. I could see some arguments like these two moving down. I like them up there, though. As far as the rest of the bronzes, I think we're pretty happy with this. I could see this also moving down, but it's definitely played in all the tactic decks. Yeah, I think we're happy with this. Yeah, this is the tier list for the Nilfgaardian faction. Hopefully you guys had fun. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's any changes I should make going forward, and we will see you next time.